Okay, so here are all of what I consider to be my single blushes, meaning that face palettes are not included here. I have some other blushes that are either in blush palettes or in face palettes, and I'm going to declutter those separately. But these are my single blushes. Some of them are duos. Some of them are things that are not necessarily marketed as blush or considered to be blush by the masses, but these are all small pans or tubes of product that I use to blush my face. So I'm going to go through one by one and separate these into 3 piles. There's going to be the pile of blushes that I really love and want to use a lot, and those are going to be the only ones I keep this time. If there's one that I don't really love and don't want to keep, I will either pass it along to a family member or a friend, or if it's too disgusting or too old to pass along to a family member or a friend, then I will throw it away. So those will be the 3 piles. Let's start with this one right here. This is probably my oldest blush, and it's one of the oldest makeup items that I still own. It's the Lorac Pro Powder Cheek Stain in Plum Passion, and I believe that this blush is discontinued. I think I tried to look it up when I shopped my stash for it last year, and I couldn't find it. I really like this blush because it's that wintry, nipped by the cold, flushed, blushy cheek look, and it has a bit of a sheen. And when it's buffed out onto the skin, I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see it in the swatch, but when it's buffed out onto the skin, it really gives a gorgeous sheen. And I think it's actually a bit unusual, especially for someone as fair as I am, to find a blush in this dramatic dark shade that also works as a highlighting blush. With this one, the balance is perfect. It all works together. However, this is incredibly old and it's also pretty disgusting. There's a deep dent in it. I got a ton of use out of it. Back when I purchased this, when I was kind of a kid, I had very few blushes. This was one of the only ones I used for years and years and years. And since I shopped my stash for it, I haven't worn it once. I've been keeping it around because it's such a pretty product, but it's just too gross for me to want to reach for it, and I'm becoming increasingly aware of how very old it also is. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this has lived its best life. I'm very grateful to it, and I'm going to throw it away. This is a Givenchy blush that I bought a couple of years ago when I had, I think, used up whatever I had previously been using as a peachy or an orangish blush. So I went to Sephora with the goal of finding the most exquisite and perfect peachy orangish blush that I could find, and this is the one that went home with me. The shade is Aficionado Peach. It's the Le Prism blush in Aficionado Peach, and I believe that this is either discontinued or no longer available on Sephora. The last time I looked for it, I couldn't find it. This blush is in truth one of my all-time favorite makeup items. One of the things I really love about it is that it's not too heavy, it's not too pigmented. It does have good pigment, it's gorgeous, but if I want an intense blushy look with this, I have to layer it and layer it and layer it. And so what that means is, even though it's quite peachy and not necessarily the most natural color on me, it lends itself to a very natural look. It's just the silkiest, most gorgeous blushy powder, and one of the reasons I'm excited to declutter my blushes is to clear the way for products like this to get more play. I'm definitely going to keep this, and I hope I'll be reaching for it more after I declutter this collection. This blush was a gift from one of you in the mail. It's the Laura Geller Baked Blush and Brighten in Tropic Hues. This is a very shimmery, lovely, and definitely a brightening blush. And you know what? I think I need to see how it looks up next to NARS Orgasm. So this is a little mini of NARS Orgasm. I think it was a Sephora point perk at some point within the past couple of years. Okay, so they're definitely different. Orgasm is pinker and also more gold, and Tropic Hues is peachier, and it's definitely a little bit subtler and more natural to me. I'm going to go ahead and tentatively put it in the keep pile, although if there's anything else that I want to keep more that swatches very similarly to this, I will probably move it into the giveaway pile. And since I have this out, let's talk about it. I don't know. NARS Orgasm is such an iconic blush, and I do tend to pull this out for more editorial draped looks from time to time. I've had this in my back pocket for years. I think I had maybe another mini of this before I had this, and I think I don't want to be without it, so I'm gonna go ahead and hang on to this. This is a product that I loved a lot, and I really did love the color that I got from this, and in fact, I suspect that this would swatch similarly to that Laura Geller blush because I remember it being kind of a similar color. Yeah, it's pretty similar. This is a blush color that I really like to use, and oh my goodness gracious, just when I did this, I realized that I have some single blushes in magnetic pans that I haven't included in here. Let me get them. So this is an Ofra blush. I think it's called Winter Rose Glow, and this is Wet n Wild Apricot in the middle. And I'm going to swatch them both close to the Laura Geller blush because these two might possibly be pretty close in color. So there's Apricot in the middle, and it looks very close in color to this Wet n Wild Disaster right here, and there is Winter Rose Flush, or Winter Rose Glow, I believe, the Ofra blush. It is darker and more rose in color than anything else I've swatched so far. So it's actually these two that are very close in color to each other, and this is obviously a beloved blush. I have tons of pan on this and I use it all the time, and this is very obviously in bad shape. If I were a different woman living a different life, I might choose to repress this product, but given that I have so many beautiful blushes and time is of the essence in my daily life, I think that I'm actually just going to discard this. I did enjoy it when it was in better condition. I did like this product a lot. These are both keepers. I tend to use my single blushes in magnetic pans a lot. When I travel, I just pop one of these into whichever magnetic palette I'm taking with me, and that takes up so much less space than any of these other single blushes would take up in my travel bag. And I also really love the finish of both of these. I love these colors and I love these finishes, so these are two of my favorite blushes. Let's talk about this product from Kevyn Aucoin. This is also very old. I think that I might have purchased this in 2014. It could have been 2015, but it was years and years ago at this point. And as you can see, I've completely used up the color that was here. That's because I purchased this for this color. So I bought it, I only wanted the color that was in here. It was a really beautiful kind of natural, rich, flushed nude blush, and then this over here is a bright pink, and that's just not my style for blush or really for any makeup. It's just not the color that I like, and I kept this thinking that it was a shame to waste this full pan of product, but I really have gotten all of the use out of this product that I intended to get when I bought it. I've gotten really good use out of it, so I'm gonna go ahead and throw it away because it's not just that this side is completely panned, this side is also full of gross hairs and stuff sticking into it, and it's a cream product and it's several years old, so I don't think it would be a good idea to pass it on to anyone else. In case you're wondering, this was the duo number 3 in Tan Soleil / Bettina. I believe that Tan Soleil was the color that I really loved, and Bettina is this bright pink. This is a little deluxe sample size of Dew the Hoola. It's a liquid bronzer. This is my only single bronzer. I have some bronzers, maybe 2 bronzers in face palettes, and I don't own any single bronzers. To me, blush and bronzer are kind of the same thing. I don't really bronze my face and then blush my face on top of that. I guess, no, you know what? I think my Kevyn Aucoin Neo Highlighter would kind of count in this category. I'll show it to you quickly. Wow, I really did a terrible job of gathering together all of the things I needed for this video. So this is technically a highlighter. It's technically a single highlighter, and maybe I'll include it actually in my single highlighter declutter because I failed to include it at the beginning of this video. But this is my only single bronzer and really the only bronzer that I use. I consider this to be more of a blush, really, kind of like a ruddy blush. This was given to me. A friend wasn't using it, she passed it along to me, and I think I used it once or twice as a warm blush, and then I just never reached for it again. And swatching it now and seeing how pretty it is, I remember why I agreed to accept it from my friend, and I remember why I enjoyed trying it out the once or twice. But I'm just not going to use it, I'm really not, and it's only been used once or twice, so I think I can find somebody to adopt it. This is my only remaining Glossier Cloud paint, and it's in the color Dusk. I had two, I had Dusk and Beam, and I decided to take Beam, which was the more orange one, home for the holidays and give it away to one of my cousins. A little goes a very long way with these products, and a lot comes out when you open the tube. In spite of that, I still have tons left, even though I've had this pretty much since they first launched. I haven't been using this very much, maybe because I just haven't been using cream products very much, but this is definitely one of my favorite blush products, and I'm going to keep it. This is my one Clinique Cheek Pop, and I'm actually curious to see if this is very close in color to any of my other blushes, so I'm gonna swatch it here on the back of my hand where I swatched the other ones. These are very similar in color. They're not the same. The Ofra blush has maybe a touch more radiance, and so it catches a little bit more darkly in a really rich swatch like I've done here. And then Fig Pop is seemingly a little bit lighter. So there are two better and clearer swatches. The minute difference, I think, is that the Ofra blush just has a little bit more brown in it. I like the Ofra blush better, and you can't see me because I'm out of frame, but I actually just applied these two blushes, one to each cheek, and I found the Ofra blush to be slightly more flattering to me. The other thing about this is that I'll clean it up a bit, and then it'll be something that I can give away. Even though I've had it for a little while, I can give it to someone. This would be harder to pass along because it's a single in a magnetic pan and not everyone has magnetic palettes. So even though I really do like this blush from Clinique, I would love to get the most use possible out of this blush because this is really gorgeous. It's one of my truly favorite blushes. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can find a friend to adopt this little thing. Even though it's in a bit of rough shape, it's a beautiful blush and I think I can find someone to love it. This is the Stila Heaven's Hue highlighter. It's technically a highlighter, but to me, it is a blush. I've been using it as a really blushy highlighter all over my eyes and all over my cheeks. I think of it as a blush product because it's a bit too dark for me to use on my Cupid's bow and on my nose and chin. I am completely in awe of how gorgeous this product is. It was sent to me by Tara just this past month, but the past week or so I've been using it pretty much every day all over the eyelids and all over the cheeks, and it makes the most dramatic yet subtle, glossy, wet, sheeny, wearable editorial all over the face look. I'm definitely gonna hang on to this one. This is also a product that's marketed as a highlighter. It's the Fenty Beauty Kilowatt Freestyle Highlighter Duo in Ginger Binge Moscow Mule, but as you can see on me, it's definitely a blush. So there's Ginger Binge and there's Moscow Mule. Now what's interesting is They are kind of close in color to these two blushes I was deciding about before. They're very different because they're much, much glowier. They're very, very glowy blushes on me, obviously, because they're supposed to be highlighters. But in undertone, if I had to pick one, they're a bit more similar to the Clinique blush that I decided to pass along. So that's good, because anything that I was kind of losing with Fig Pop, I still have in the undertones of these two highlighting blushes. I love this compact, I love this product, but I don't use it enough. I'm going to keep it and I'm going to try to remember that it's there more often. Here is the NARS Super Orgasm Liquid Illuminator. This is a tough one because I almost never use this. I think some of you will remember that I used it in a demonstration of a really dramatic, heavy blush draping look last year. I don't think I've reached for it since then. I shopped my stash for it then. I used it, I liked it, but that was at a time when I was using a sponge more, a beauty sponge. This product works well with a beauty sponge. It's a little bit difficult to use in other ways. Not that it doesn't perform well, because it does perform beautifully, it's just high maintenance. And I find as the years go by that I'm less and less inclined to reach for high maintenance products. One interesting thing is that there's NARS Orgasm, the blush, and there's the Super Orgasm Illuminator. They're really different colors. The Super Orgasm Illuminator is truly peachy gold, and the blush it's pink. It's like a bright pink. This is a beautiful product. I do love it, but I feel like it's just taking up space in my drawer. And given that it's in this kind of packaging, I think I might be able to find a friend who would like to take it off of my hands and have some fun with it. So as much as I do enjoy it, I'm gonna go ahead and make space in my life by passing it on to someone who will get a lot more use out of it than I've been getting. And then lastly, the Jouer Blush Duo in Adore. The colors are Adore Me and Hold Me. So as you can see from the swatches, or as I hope you can see, I don't know how well these are going to show on camera, these are definitely the lightest, most subtle, most natural blushes that I own. And I've said this before, I said it in Hannah's Reckoning, but these are my all-time favorite blushes. If I had to just pick one item to keep out of everything that's here, it would be these. It would be this. I have been using these all the time. I love how they look on my skin. Not just the colors, but the finish of this powder is very beautiful. It's that kind of powder that it has a sheen, but not because it's shiny. It has a sheen because of how finely milled it is. So it's like the quality of the powder gives off a little bit of a glisten, and it doesn't need to have any pearls in the powder itself. I'm definitely going to keep this. All right, so here across the top are the 9 single blushes that I'm keeping. And then here across the bottom are the 6 that I am going to be getting rid of in one way or another. The numbers break down very neatly here. I am keeping 9 out of 15. I'm getting rid of 3 out of 15 by passing them along to friends or family, and I'm throwing away 3 out of 15. So this is my newly edited collection of single blushes. These 7 will go back into my drawer in the spot where I keep my single blushes, and I'm so happy to have made some space in that drawer. And then these 2 will go back into a magnetic pan where I keep them. Behold all of my single highlighters. This declutter does not include face palettes. I'm going to declutter my face palettes separately, but it does include, I think, just one duo. This is a 2-in-1 product. We'll get to that. Ah! Disaster. Well, this highlighter might have just sealed its own fate by spitting crumbs everywhere. So let's talk about it first. This was my first product ever from Fenty Beauty. It is the Fenty Beauty Kilowatt Freestyle Highlighter Duo in Lightning Dust Fire Crystal. And boy, have I loved this product. As you can see, I've pretty much loved it to death. And this side is crumbled and repressed because it did at one point start kind of sloughing off and losing pieces. It is a slightly putty-like formula, so I've been kind of pressing it back into the pan with my fingers. This side is almost completely used up because I used it up. There's tons of pan, and what pan is still covered by product is only covered by a very, very thin layer of product. I'm a bit torn about this because there's definitely still plenty of product left on this side of the pan, but this is definitely the side that I really, really loved. This is the side I feel like I meant to purchase when I bought this, and I've truly gotten my money's worth out of this highlighter, possibly more than I ever have out of almost any highlighting product I've ever bought. I don't know how well you can see those swatches, and to be honest, that's probably going to be a problem for the entirety of this video, but needless to say, it is a very beautiful, very highlighting product, and it's a really good match for my skin tone. I love it, and I'll be sorry to say goodbye to it, but I feel like I've already said goodbye to it. And I said this in my blush declutter, but if I were a different woman living a different life, I would try to repress this. I would try to mix it up and repress it, and I would try to repress this and get every last bit out of that. But I'm not a project panner, and I don't feel like I would be happier after having used every last crumb of this side of the pan, for example, than I am now looking at it and realizing that I truly have used this product enough times and over the course of enough months to feel like it was definitely worth it. If this were my only highlighter, I would definitely try to repress it and keep it. But I have so many beautiful highlighting products, and there's nothing about this that's truly unique compared to my other highlighting products. This is a color of highlighter that I have a lot of, and it's not more blinding than any of my other products or anything like that. It's just pretty perfect, and that's why I've loved it and used it so much. If it were in better condition, I would keep it and I would use more of this side, but honestly, I can't even get a brush in there right now without it floofing and crumbling all over the place. As you saw, I can't even open it without it just losing its bananas and going everywhere. So as sad as I am to do it, I think I'm gonna have to go ahead and discard this product. Again, if it were in better condition and I didn't want to use it anymore, I could send it to someone, but if I sent this through the mail, it would just arrive as a pile of powder. So I think that for a combination of all of those reasons, I'm ready to let this one go. It occurs to me to mention that with my decision about this product, I feel like I'm revealing here on my channel that I value minimalism and simplicity and kind of clarity in my makeup collection, and I guess you could say in my life. I value that over economy. So I'm not a person who feels like it's wasteful to get rid of this product, even though there's still technically the stuff of it in there. I'm a person who feels like it would be a waste of space to keep this highlighter around when I feel like I'm pretty much never going to use it again, because I'm loath to reach for it, because when I open it, it goes everywhere, and I'm loath to spend the time repressing it because I have so much else to spend my time on. So it is a matter of philosophy. I know that some people would not say goodbye to a product that still has so much stuff left in it, but for me, it feels like the right decision and the decision that's really going to make me happy moving forward. Let's talk about these three ColourPop highlighters. That one is Spoon. That one is Flexitarian. And that one is Lunch Money. Now, of these three, the one that I truly, truly love, as you can probably tell by looking, is Spoon. It's the one that looks nude on my skin tone. It's the one that really, really blends in with my skin tone. And it also has glitters in it. So Flexitarian tends to really look bright silver on me. And for that reason, I don't reach for it very much. It really makes me look like I'm wearing makeup. And I have other highlighters that are just as blinding that don't give that kind of silvery makeup-y stripe look. And then Lunch Money is just super subtle, and it's so subtle as to almost be a little bit dull. And once again, I have less dramatic highlighters. I mean, I have highlighters that aren't as dramatic as Flexitarian, but that have a more skin-like and a more wet look sheen than Lunch Money. So I feel like a while ago, I stopped reaching for Flexitarian and Lunch Money, and I continue to reach for Spoon. And that means to me that I would rather finish Spoon. I would rather use it up and pan it than spread my love out among the three of them. This is the one that I truly love, and these ones I could kind of take them or leave them. Now, I know from recent experience that Super Shock shadows go bad. They dry out. And these are the Super Shock cheeks. I think that these are going to dry out before I get around to them, especially given that I have other highlighters that I love so much. So I am going to rehome Lunch Money and Flexitarian. I'm going to send them to friends and or family members. And I'm just gonna keep Spoon. This right here is a true no-brainer. This is How Many Carats, the Diamond Bomb from Fenty. This was a gift from my beautiful and generous cousin, Mara, at Christmas. She gave it to me as a Christmas gift, and it is absolutely stunning and amazing. It's pretty much sheer with silver glitters, so it shines just as shiny as Flexitarian, but without that kind of silver streak. It's more just like a wet look that comes from glitter, and I really, really love it. The reason that it looks kind of busted is that when I first got it, I was just gently rubbing over the top of it, and it didn't seem that intense. And I was like, this is pretty, but it's not that intense. I couldn't really get the payoff that I was looking for. And then I started to notice that it was kind of sealing over with other product. If I ever had anything else on my fingers when I touched it, it would kind of melt over it, and it sort of seemed like it was sealing. So I actually went ahead and dug into it with my thumbnail, and I sort of moved it around, and I got some of what was underneath onto the top because it's a bit of a putty texture. And when I did that, I started to see what all the hype was about. I started to see what everyone was talking about, and I fell doubly and triply in love with this product. I'm definitely going to be keeping this. I think I can kind of talk about all of these little sample guys together because to me, they sort of all sit in the same area of my drawer, and I reach for one of them on a day when I've decided to reach for a liquid highlight or a cream highlight. It's like if I'm not reaching for a normal highlight, I reach for this area of my drawer. And because they all kind of blend together for me in a way, a lot of them aren't getting very much use. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pull out the ones that I want to keep. I think that's what I'm gonna do. This one I love. This was sent to me by the wonderful Courtney. It's the Cover FX Shimmer Veil, and it's in the color Amethyst. And I was totally not expecting to love this because I don't generally gravitate towards colorful highlighters. But this is so beautiful. And because it's pink, I can sort of work it for day. I can kind of work it for a non-editorial look. If it's done carefully, I can make it look a little bit natural or a little bit more like natural makeup. One of the things I love about it is that it sets down and it doesn't budge, but it keeps its sheen. So it's already set and it's actually non-sticky. Like I could blend a powder over top of that and it would still be fine. It would have a beautiful blend. It's no longer even tacky, which I just think is extraordinary. When I use this on my cheeks, I'll often also use it as an eyeshadow base. I'll put it down all over my lid space and then I'll blend eyeshadow on top of it. And it just has completely captured my heart. So much so that there have been a couple of times when I considered picking up the same product in another color. I just think it's really beautifully formulated. I'm a big fan, and I use this way, way more than I expected to when I opened the package from Courtney and saw that it was included. Of my natural, regular cream highlight type products, this is the one that I like the most. This is the Becca Shimmering Skin Perfector Spotlight in the color Moonstone, which is the one that I think matches my skin the best of the Becca products. And it just looks stunning on the skin. It just looks stunning. And it's very natural. It lasts all day. It blends in really well. I don't know how well you will be able to see it, but it gives my skin a glisten. Not quite as glossy a glisten as, for example, the Stila Heaven's Hue highlighter that I included in my blush declutter because the color that I have is more blushy. Not quite as wet of a glisten as that, but just exactly the appropriate no makeup glisten. If I had to pick one of all of my kind of weird cream products for that purpose, this would be the one. I think this is the one that I'm going to keep. And I'm not going to keep any of the three that are trying to do the same thing as that. So this is the Urban Decay Naked Skin Highlighting Fluid, and it's actually a slightly better match for my skin tone. It's a little bit less yellow and a little bit more neutral, and objectively I kind of like it better, but I don't like how fast it dries, and I feel like it almost always ends up looking patchy on me when I use it. And for that reason I always reach for this one instead of this one, but I've had both of these like for over 2 years and I'm not even close to finishing one of them. I'm like halfway through both of them. So I think I can, you know, this is so tiny and it's so fiddly and it's so kind of caked onto itself. I think that it can just go in the trash. I'm not going to try to foist that on anyone. This is a deluxe sample size of the Vanish Champagne Flash from Hourglass. So it's the Vanish highlighting stick, I think it was called, in Champagne Flash. And it's pretty. It's pretty, but it's so little and fiddly. I forget that I have it. It's very, very natural. There's nothing extraordinary about it to me. I think if I wanted to look like this, I would be more happy with ColourPop Spoon or with the Becca one. And I haven't used very much of this, so I feel like I might actually be able to foist this off on someone. I'm gonna try to give that away. And then the same here with Benefit What's Up. It's like the exact same type of product, but it's very, very peachy, not very shiny, just awkward, never think of it, never reach for it, ready for it to be gone. The Cover FX Custom Enhancer Drops. This is in Moonlight, I think. Yes, the Cover FX Custom Enhancer Drops in Moonlight. I thought I really loved this and I used them for a while because when you first start blending it out, it's so shiny. Like when you're at that place, it looks so metallic. But then the more you blend it, it just kind of blends away. And what it blends away to for me is a little bit of a bronzy color. And I think if anything, it just darkens my skin a little bit. It kind of looks like silvery metallic, but also bronze. And if I ever add it into my foundation or anything, it just kind of darkens it. And that really, really doesn't work for me. So again, this one's getting kind of gross. It's quite old. I think it's like well over a year old. And I think that that one has seen its last day. The Clinique Hefty Highlight Chubby Stick. I think I'm going to keep this. Can you see here? Okay, so this is different. This is different than the others, and I don't know how well you'll be able to see, but I can tell you from experience, the swatch isn't really telling the whole tale, but this is a special product because it's very, very, very wet look. Almost nothing makes my skin look as wet, truly wet as this does, but it dries down and It doesn't stay tacky like the Glossier one does. It really, really dries down almost to a powdery finish and still stays looking super wet. I think that I have failed to reach for it as much as it deserves because I've been distracted by all of these other little roly tubes that are in my drawer in the same spot as this. So my hope is that by clearing out these ones, this one will spring to my hand more often because it is a product that really impressed me. All right, and this is a Jouer highlighter that Wendy sent to me. It is the powder highlighter in Rose Quartz. This actually arrived shattered in the mail, I remember, and it has a texture with enough kind of weight and oil to it that I was able to press it back into its pan without using any kind of mixer. I was able to kind of just press it all back in and it stayed, and it's pretty sturdy. It's in pretty good shape. It's definitely not as crumbly or as much of a mess as the Fenty one. I can pick this up on a brush. It doesn't really shed everywhere. It opens and closes just fine. And it's a really pretty color. And in fact, I think that this is somewhat close in color and shine and in effect to the lightning dust side of the Fenty Beauty highlight that I've pretty much panned. So I'm gonna kind of consider this to be a replacement for that. I can't stop swatching it because it's so pretty and so shiny, and it's got like a really beautiful glossy shine to it. So I'm gonna go ahead and hang on to this one. And then I think we all know where this is going. This is one of my true all-time most used and favorite products, my Kevyn Aucoin Neo highlighter. So they bill it as a highlighter because it's the 3 highlighting colors that Kevyn Aucoin sells. So there's the darker one, which is really a bronze on my skin, like it's really quite bronzy. And then there's the mid-tone one, which is kind of peachy, and the lighter one, which is more champagne. But they're all here together in a gradient. And it works really well for me because I can use the darker side as a glowy bronzer. And it's a nice kind of mid-tone color. It's not too orange, and that works really well for me as a glowy bronzer. Then that middle peach shade is just kind of like a perfect warm peachy blush for my skin, and the lightest side pretty much is just a slight sheen on my skin. And I don't know how well you can see the glossiness there, but this is a gorgeous and very finely milled powder that makes my skin glowy but without looking highlighted. So it's a powder that I can use all over my face, and I will strategically place the different colors on different areas of my face to get the effect I want. So this is a product that I use almost on a daily basis sometimes, and definitely on a weekly basis or multiple times per week. I'm definitely going to keep this. And I think many of you know that I actually pretty much completely panned one of these. I'll grab out the one that I panned so you can see them both side by side. So here's my sad old Kevyn Aucoin Neo highlighter. It's totally loose in there, totally broken, and really, really, really well loved and well used. When I first got this one, I received it from Octoly. I said that I was going to keep this one around and try to finish it up and try to like use it as a bronzer because it's really just the bronze side that's left, and it was looking very, very dark on me. Whereas when I use this one, I can get quite a light or a fresh look. And I just haven't done that. I put it away in a drawer and I have never reached for it again. I've just been using this one. So I feel like I'm rich in Kevyn Aucoin highlighter bronzer stuff right now. And just as with the Fenty Beauty, I'm not going to take the time to repress this. I know that I could, but then I would have 2, I would have a backup, and I don't like having doubles and I don't like having backups. So I'm just going to be honest with myself and let go of this and not keep telling myself that one day I'm going to fish it out of my drawer and use up the rest of it. I think, it was definitely given a good life. Just as they did in the blush declutter, the numbers are breaking down very neatly. If you include my old Kevyn Aucoin Neo highlighter, I started out with 15, and I'm keeping 7, these 7 up here. I am throwing away these 4 sad old busted ones, and I am going to rehome these 4 right here. And here is my newly edited collection of single highlighters. I have one very bright highlighting powder, one much softer highlighting powder, two highlighting putty products, and two little liquids in containers, and one cream stick. So there's a nice array of different styles of highlighter here before me. Some of you might know this, but there are a couple of highlighting products in the Purgatory box right now, and it's looking like I'm going to be keeping some of them. So that was partly what allowed me to get my highlighter collection down to just this little size. I think that this category might be joined soon by one or even two more products. These are all of my face palettes, basically blush and highlighting palettes, and I think there are two bronzers in one of them. Let's go ahead and get started with the declutter. I don't think any of these are nasty enough to throw away, so this declutter is going to consist of two piles: the pile of face palettes that I love and want to keep and keep using, and the pile of face palettes that I'm going to try to rehome with friends and or family. This is the Becca Blushed with Light Blush Trio palette, and it was a gift from Wendy. These three blushes are Wisteria, Songbird, and Snapdragon. There is no way that I would consider giving up this palette right now, and it's mostly because I've been reaching for it almost every day as an eyeshadow palette. I've been using all three of these shadows, but especially Wisteria and I think Songbird as a close second, to set my eyelid primer and to put down a base for a warm, blushy eye look. This has been front and center in my vanity lately, and usually when I use one of these blushes to set my eye primer and to build an eye look, I'll also use it on my cheeks to keep the look cohesive. I've been getting so much really good use out of this lately. I'm so grateful to Wendy for sending it to me, and I'm definitely going to keep it. This is the NARS Board de Plage palette, and I believe that it is discontinued, to my grief, because this contains probably my all-time favorite highlighter. So there are the four highlights. We have Rivage, Creek, Corniche, and Gallet. And this is NARS's new formula for highlighters, so the Beaujolais formula, and it's also their new formula for bronzers. So I believe that this is Casino down here and Laguna up here. These are their iconic bronzers, so that one's Casino and that one's Laguna. I like them. I actually particularly like Casino because it has sort of a reddish undertone, and I tend to use bronzers basically as blush. Like I'll just put them on the high points of my face rather than all around to try to darken my skin. So I tend to use Casino actually when I use these guys. So I know that NARS recently released singles of a lot of their highlighters in this same formula. Assuming that it is truly the same as this, they are gorgeous. This is a gorgeous new formula. I mean, relatively new. It's new as of like a year and a half ago that NARS has come out with. Unfortunately, I don't think any of the newly released single highlighters is Rivage, and none of them is as bright and white as Rivage is. And it's that kind of bright whiteness with a tiny bit of, I think, like multi-dimensional sparkle underneath it that makes it just the glossiest and most lovely, natural, wet-looking powder on my skin. I do have pan on this, and I will keep using it until it's completely gone. If only for this highlighter, I would keep this, but I do enjoy using the rest of them from time to time as well. This is a beautiful palette, and I'm glad that I bought it. The Anastasia Beverly Hills A Moonchild palette. I think it's pretty clear what's going on in this palette just from looking. So Pink Heart has so much of a dip in it that there's a little bit of pan right there in the middle. Purple Horseshoe is also pretty well dug into. And then Blue Moon, Lucky Clover, Star, and Blue Ice look pretty much untouched. I bought this palette for this color actually. I really wanted purple at the time, and then I ended up really loving Pink Heart, and I never used the other four. So I hope that this won't scandalize too many of you, but I think that what I'm going to do with this palette is to depot it. I would love to have Pink Heart as a highlighter in a single pan, because I will sometimes take this when I go traveling, because I usually want to wear this when I'm going to an event, when I'm going to a tango event, something glamorous, something exciting and unusual. And for those events, I'm usually traveling. And it's kind of a bummer to take this whole big palette with 4 shades that I never use just for this one little highlighter when I travel to those events. I think I'm going to depot this. I'm going to keep Purple Horseshoe, and I'm going to keep Pink Heart, and I'm going to put these 4 into another magnetic palette and give it away or send them individually to friends who I know have magnetic palettes. So this is kind of a combo. I'm going to rehome 4 of these highlighters, and I'm going to keep 2 of them. So I'm going to put it down here for now. This is the NARS Narcissist Unfiltered one. This is just a stunning piece of makeup. It's one of my favorite things in my makeup collection. I love everything about it. I love this beautiful packaging with this kind of glossy mirrored lid. I love all of these blushes. I don't particularly love this highlighter because it's got a pretty strong gold undertone and it doesn't look super great on me. But all of these, especially this one, which I've recently fallen extra in love with, it looks brown in the pan, but then it buffs out to this gorgeous rosy, bronzy sheen that really works on my skin. I really, really love this. I cherish this. I think if I had to get rid of 3/4 of my makeup collection, this is probably one of the things that would make it through. So I'm definitely going to keep this one. And then here we have this old school Morphe blush palette. I believe it's the 9B. Yeah, it's the 9B. This is a pretty palette, and Morphe blushes are very, very pigmented. And I think that both of those qualities are the downfall of this palette in this declutter. It's pretty because it's so dynamic. There are a bunch of colors in here that I don't have. Like, I don't have a blush this color, I don't have a blush this color, I don't really have a blush that color. Yeah, I would say that color I don't have. I have these more neutral colors, and then I have Exhibit A in that NARS palette. But there's a reason that I don't have single blushes in these colors, is because they don't suit me. They don't suit my skin tone or my style, and I never ever reach for them. And I don't do enough dramatic artistic looks for it to be worth keeping this palette around, because everything that I do use, that I would use in here, I have dupes for elsewhere in my collection, and all the rest of them I don't use. It's also in pretty good condition. As for the pigmentation, I don't particularly love hyperpigmented blushes, and I'll swatch some of them for you. They swatch beautifully because they're very pigmented. They swatch like eyeshadows because they are like eyeshadows. They're basically just like eyeshadows in big pans. So I'm going to find somebody who wants to take this off of my hands and play around with it, because I prefer a softer, more elegant blush formula that is buildable. And I always struggle when I use these blushes to get anything less than kind of a dramatic and clownish look, which, don't get me wrong, I sometimes go for, but I would prefer to be able to choose. And I also prefer to be able to really go in with my blush and apply it and buff it into my skin. And if I do that with this, I get too much pigment on my face. So this is the one that I am going to pass along. So here are the results of my declutter. After the deed is done with regards to this Anastasia Beverly Hills Glow Kit, I will just have 2 single highlighters in magnetic palettes. I will own these 3 when it comes to face palettes, and this one will be gone from my collection. I'm going to send this off to a new home. These are the survivors, but I must admit, there is a sneaky 4th. There is a face palette in the purgatory box right now. It hasn't gone through Hannah's reckoning yet, but I'm pretty sure that it is going to squeak through. So these 3 lovelies will likely be joined by a 4th in the not too distant future.
Hey guys, can I be friends with you? Can we hang out?
Sure, we would love to.
So I'm going to declutter these all at once in one video. And the purpose of this declutter is not to whittle down this collection because I don't particularly feel like I have too much of this kind of product, maybe a tiny bit too much. I just feel like there are some extras. I have some extraneous products in this category. I'm ready to kind of like whip it into shape ever so slightly, and I want to do it on camera. So I'm going to be really focused in this declutter on just weeding out the few things that I don't super love and that I think would be more happily living out their lives with someone else, rather than on trying to kind of get back down to a manageable number of things, because I don't really need to do that. This is everything all willy-nilly, and I think I'm going to separate it out into categories. That makes sense, right? Let's start with blush. But we'll do cream blushes and regular blushes and blushy face palettes all together. Okay, so here are all of my blushes, apart from, how many singles do I really have? Should I include them? Let me see. Okay, so I actually pulled out all of my single magnetic pan blushes as well because I only had 3 of them, so it's not difficult to include them in this declutter. And right off the bat, this is hard. Obviously there's not that many. It's a lot of blush by many standards, but it's by no means kind of the overwhelming situation with which I was dealing in the lip product department, for example. And most of these things I really love and use all the time, and there aren't so many of them that I'm unable to get good use out of all of them. So I'm going to go through one by one and just quickly touch on everything, but I can see one thing that I might part with. This might be an area of my collection in which I hang on to everything. We'll see. So let's start with these palettes. This is a palette that I purchased myself before I was ever on YouTube, before my no-buy year. It provides some dimension to my blush collection. So this plummy blush right here, for example, this is the only location of a plummy blush like that. This is a super bronzy blush, and it's the only place I have a blush like that. And then this brilliant red blush, this is my only brilliant red blush, Exhibit A by NARS. It's one of my favorite blushes, and I don't have anything else like that anywhere else in my collection. So this palette is a definite keeper, and it's also, it's a precious thing to me. It's something that I selected and that I bought and that I am really glad that I invested in, so to speak. This Jouer palette is also one that I reach for a lot because, surprisingly, this super sort of nudie blush, and especially this extremely pale nudie blush, those are both also unreplicated in my collection. I don't really have other blushes that are this pale. So these blushes are the most light, the sort of faintest wash of color, the way that I kind of warm up my face in the most neutral way compared to everything else I have in the blush department. So, and also I really love them. I actually try not to hold on to things just because they're unique to my collection, but in these cases, both of them, I have them and I really love them, and they're unique to my collection. So I don't really have a reason to talk myself into decluttering either of those. This Becca palette also gets a lot of use from me. This is Songbird. This is Snapdragon. This is Songbird, and this is Wisteria. And I travel with this palette a lot because I love all 3 of these shadows for deepening up the crease. I use them kind of interchangeably as eyeshadows, as eyeshadow base, and as blushes. And this is probably the most kind of mid-toned neutral useful of the 3 of these, but these are my 3 blush palettes. All 3 of them are highly functional for me, and none of these 3 is languishing in my collection, so I don't feel like I even need to think twice about either of these 3. I'm getting good use out of all of them. This right here is supposed to be a bronzer. It's Kevyn Aucoin's Neo Bronzer in Sunrise Light, but it's so warm, it's so kind of red that I definitely use it as a blush, but it's a very light you know, it's like a blush on me, but with the pigment of a bronzer. And I really love that. It's actually one of the reasons I really love this blush, which is from Givenchy, because it's so lightly pigmented. It's almost like nothing, almost nothing picks up on the brush and almost nothing goes onto the skin. And as I build it and build it, a very faint flush, a very faint apricot-y flush builds up on my skin. It's so flattering, but it's so much more beautiful than a super pigmented blush in these same colors, because it looks like it's part of the skin. It looks like a natural glow. And it's also why I love Wet n Wild's Apricot in the Middle. It's a similar idea, but with more shimmer than this Givenchy one. I actually think that as single blushes go, these are my three favorites. Apricot in the Middle, Givenchy Aficionado Peach, and this Kevyn Aucoin Sunrise Light Bronzer. And it's because they have that sort of semi-transparent, super buildable, skin-like quality, and the color range is just, I mean, these are my colors. It's like your skin, but better, sort of, on the cheeks. These are just no-brainers, definite keepers. I love all three of these blushes a lot, a lot, a lot. Let's talk about these singles and maybe this Clinique one. So this is Ofra Winter Rose Glow, I think. And this is a very beautiful, neutral, glowy blush. I like having a single that's a little bit deeper and has a different undertone than my other go-to single, Apricot in the Middle. I think I'm going to hang on to that one. I do travel with it a lot. I tend to travel with my magnetic single blushes rather than like my singles, you know, like a chunky single blush like this. This, however, Makeup Geek Chivalry is really, really pigmented and kind of dark for me for a blush. I hung on to it initially because I was like, oh, I could use it as a combo eyeshadow blush, blah, blah, blah. But the truth is it's languished in my collection. I kind of forgot I even had it. And I think that I can definitely live without it. So I'm going to give that one away. This is Clinique Fig Pop. I absolutely love the skin-like finish of these cheek pop blushes from Clinique. And this is a bit kind of richer and figgier than any of these other go-to blushes. It has more in common maybe with this Kevyn Aucoin one, but I feel like it's pinker and figgier even than that. It's nice to have one that serves that purpose. This is the other kind of figgy, rich blush that I have. And oh my gosh, I would never have considered decluttering this before. But now that I'm doing this, I realize that this is the standout product here, in that I got it because I love these colors for me for blush. It's, by the way, it's the Fenty Kilowatt Freestyle Highlighter Duo in Gingerbinge Moscow Mule. I got it because I love Fenty. I'm intrigued. I just never reach for it. I reach for all of these other blushes instead because it's kind of intense. And because of that, it ends up looking pretty makeup-y on me. It's not that I don't think it's beautiful, because I do. And it's not that I don't think it's beautiful on me, because I do. I think it's beautiful, and I think it's beautiful on me. But these days I'm all about rehoming something with someone else who will really love it, instead of keeping it. And these tones they're really similar to the Clinique one, but the Clinique one is so much more skin-like on me than this sort of super shimmery, glowy. This is supposed to be a highlighter for deep skin tones, and it works beautifully as a statement blush on me. I just think if I want to build a blush statement, I'm going to do it with these other tools. And this hasn't gotten much use, so that makes it something that it will be delightful to give away because it's in really, really good shape. And there's very little wear on the tops of the pans. So as much as I truly love this product, and I was so excited when I bought it, and I always look at it and I'm like, oh, it's so beautiful. I love having that in my collection. The truth is, I think I'll actually enjoy what I have more if I remove this and make a little bit of space in my blush drawer. So I'm going to go ahead and give this away too. I surprised myself. All right, last are these three cream blushes. The Glossier Cloud Paint in Dusk was my only cream blush for a long time, and I really love it, and I still use the F out of it. I still use it a lot, and I'm definitely going to keep it. I don't really feel like I want to collect them all with the cloud paints. I had a couple of other ones and I gave them away, and this is the remaining one. There is one in the Purgatory box right now that a friend sent to me, but I haven't started reckoning with it yet. And then these are 2 ColourPop blush sticks. This is in the shade Mercy Me, and actually I pulled this out of the Purgatory box because I thought I might as well just put it in this video and have this count as a reckoning. And Yelika gave this to me when she was visiting, and I thought that it might be, from the online pictures, I thought it might be kind of a dupe for for Kierra Weiss Precious, which was kind of an opaque peachy blush that I completely panned. Oh no, I didn't completely pan it. I panned Desired Glow, and then Precious, I used it a lot, but it went bad. I hit pan on it, but it went bad. This is brighter than Precious, and so I don't end up reaching for it as much as I thought I would. Roosevelt, on the other hand, which was the one that I purchased for myself, I reach for constantly because this is the exact sort of ruddy, bronzy blush that I adore. It might be worth noting that these feel like slightly different formulas, and I think it's probably because Mercy Me is white-based and Roosevelt has more of a sheer base. But Mercy Me feels almost foamy and creamy and super wet, and Roosevelt feels a little bit dry, but in a good way, in a way that makes it really blend into the skin. I feel like 3 cream blushes isn't anywhere close to being too much for me. I use all 3 of them and I enjoy having all 3 of them. I think that the 2 more natural ones are my favorites, the 2 ready ones, but I want to keep Mercy Me in part because it is so different from the other 2. So all 3 of these are staying, and that's it. These are going to be my blushes moving forward. I'm keeping 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 single blushes, 3 little blush palettes, and I am passing along these 2 singles. I'm actually going to go wash off my hand and arms, and maybe I'll wipe off the table too, and also let's have an ad break. Be right back. Goodness gracious, we're dealing with many more single highlighters than I remembered that I had. I feel like this situation has gotten out of control, and I would like to do some damage here in my declutter. I think the first thing I'm going to do is just grab out the ones that I know I am ready to part with. And this is one of them. This is a very old little mini of Becca Liquid Moonstone. And it's just gotten to the point where it's hard to dig it out. I almost never reach for it anymore because it's so old. It's very much past its prime. And I think I can just go ahead and throw this away. I did get a lot of good use out of it. I don't feel sad about this at all. I just feel like it's taking up space and it's trash at this point. I think that this Clinique Chubby Stick has also lived its best life already. It's almost completely panned. There's probably like, I mean, that's it. It doesn't wind up anymore. So that's it. Like it's really, really down. It's gotten down to it. It is very beautiful and surprisingly wet look. It's a really, really pretty highlighter. But, and you know, ordinarily I would be like, I'll keep it. I'll completely use it up. I'll pan it, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, look at this situation. It's not like I haven't gotten good value out of this. Plus it was a Sephora point perk. I mean, it's not even like a value for money situation. It's just a situation where it's been sitting in the drawer for months waiting for me to use it 2 or 3 last time so that it would be completely used up. And so I think I can go ahead and let it go today. This extremely beautiful and nearly brand new product is just not getting the love from me because it stays so sticky. And I think it's really beautiful. I'm very grateful that I got the chance to try it and review it. This came to me from the brand through Octoly. It's the Kevyn Aucoin Glass Glow Face Illuminator. Some people love this kind of thing and don't mind the dewiness, but it stays as tacky as Vaseline. I mean, it's gorgeous. Like, look at that. It's just gorgeous. But I look at it in my drawer. I want to wear it. I want to reach for it. I want to love it. And I just can almost never bring myself to apply it to my face and eyes because it's so slimy. It's just a liquid, you know, it's just like a slimy liquid that stays like that. And that's not my preference when it comes to liquid highlighters. I also have a friend who I think might really love this. So I'm going to go ahead and pass this beautiful baby along. I am going to keep the dewy stick though. I find that this one, it's a very similar idea. And I'm able to wear this on my eyes and just tap out the creasing, and I'm able to wear it on my cheeks without too much trouble. It just somehow doesn't feel as like thick and goopy as the Kevyn Aucoin one. And so I don't balk at wearing it. I'm pretty inclined to reach for this on super simple glowy skin days. So I'm going to hang on to this one. And that way I still sort of have this one super dewy skin option for the time being. We'll see how it continues to go with me and that product. So are those all of my creams? Let's look at this one. This I use as a highlighter. It's supposed to be an eyeshadow. It's the Cover FX Shimmer Veil in Violet, and I really like this one. I like it so much that I purchased a little set of minis of this formula, and I hate it. I hate the set of minis that I got. But this one I'm always very impressed by how well it sets down and how shiny it is. I haven't reached for it though in a long time, because it's so pink. It's the undertone. It's like this really cool pink undertone. I think I'm all right with giving this to someone while it's still pretty new and in pretty good shape. I think I'm gonna give this away. I guess these are the other cream type ones, right? These are all powders. So let's keep going with the cream type ones. ColourPop Spoon, my one ColourPop Super Shock highlighter, I am well on the way to completely panning, and I love this highlighter. I really like it because it looks super sheer on me, and it's one of the few highlighters that I can layer over a blush without disturbing very much the effect of the blush. So I'm definitely going to keep that one. Same with this one. This is like, look at that. I mean, I've really done a number on this one. I really love this. This is a pretty standard go-to tool for me, the Fenty Kilowatt highlighter in How Many Carats. It's basically just sheer with glitter, but it's not tacky. And I like this a lot. This is very useful to me. I use it a lot on my brow bone as well, not just on my cheeks. And then the Stila one as well. This is Stila Kitten. It's the Heaven's Hue putty highlighter, and I love the super healthy ruddy glow that this gives to my skin. Look at that. See that shine right there? I really love this. I love this so much that I considered buying I considered buying it in another color. I also really like the way that this blends with cream blushes. For a while there, my everyday look was one of the ColourPop blush sticks with this on top of it, really, really buffed in and layered together. And I still do that a lot on my cheeks. It's one of my favorite looks, and this is one of my favorite highlighting products. So I'm going to hang on to these 4 non-powder highlighting products. All right, let's talk about colorful and color shifting highlights. I feel like it's time to take myself to task. And these are the ones. I have 4, and it's the kind of thing that I don't really wear a lot. So this is Becca Vanilla Quartz. It is very white gold with a slight pink shift. This is Nikki Tutorials and Ofra Cloud 9, and it's very marshmallow white with a pink and a green shift. So those look very different. Rose Quartz or Vanilla Quartz is looking very, very yellow, like very vanilla. And Cloud 9 is looking very pink. It's got that sort of fluoro pink reflect. Here's Pink Heart from the Anastasia Beverly Hills Moonchild palette. And it is also kind of a pinky marshmallowy white with a pretty brilliant pink reflect. Those are dupes, these two. They are dupes. I need to choose between them. It's ridiculous. I really don't need both of them, given how infrequently I wear that kind of highlighter. And then this right here is Purple Heart from the Moonchild palette. I really like wearing this in certain situations, if I'm going to be in a dark club or in a dark tango event, it just looks like sort of a gray smear on my hand right now, but it can glow purple and look really, really special under the right circumstances. So I'm going to go ahead and keep this one because it's so unique to my collection, and I know that I think of it from time to time. I think of using it. And I'm going to give away Vanilla Quartz because this makes a nice gift. It's so compact and it's so universal. I mean, not completely universal, but it's something that many, many people would be able to adopt from me. It's pretty neutral, so my friends who are scared of making a color statement could still get use out of this. I'm going to give that away. And then, to be totally honest, the Ofra and Nikki Tutorials collab looks a little bit better. Like it's more finely milled and it's shinier, but it's so much more bulky. It's so much more bulky. And I've had this in my singles for a long time since I depotted this palette. I know it's there. If I want this look, I'll dig it out. And this is also very portable. I can travel with it and I have pan on it. I feel like I might as well finish the job. I think it makes a lot more sense for me in my life to keep this one and to give this big bulky one away. This is one that I'm gonna like use up, you know, and this I would never use up. It would just sit in my collection until I decluttered it. So I'm gonna go ahead and head that off at the pass. I'll find someone to adopt this one. Even though all things being equal, this is a slightly nicer formula, I would say, than the one from ABH. For me in my life, practically, it just makes more sense to make space, and they're similar enough that it doesn't hurt to do that. All right, let's look at these guys and maybe sort of see if there are, I'm kind of curious if I have anything that in any way dupes this one. This is a Jouer highlighter in Rose Quartz. Is that what it is? Rose Quartz, yeah. This was a gift from Wendy in the package that she sent me during my no-buy year, and it arrived completely shattered and I had to repress it, and it's kind of never been the same since. And even though it's very beautiful and I didn't really want to let it go at the time, I'm almost afraid to open it. Like whenever I see it in my drawer, I'm like, I don't know. So if either of these is similar to it, I might, yeah, already that one's very similar to it. Yeah. Yeah, they're all three quite similar. This is ColourPop Here Kitty Kitty. This is a very glossy and well-matched highlighter on me, and it has that slightly rosy tone. And then this is Sydney Gray's Pumpkin Spice Latte Extra Whip, and it is slightly more pink than this, but close enough. But you know what? Of the three of them, I think I'm just going to keep Here Kitty Kitty, because anytime I would want to wear this, this will serve. And anytime I want to travel with a highlighter like this, this will serve. So this I will very gingerly and carefully pass along to somebody who will keep it in a safe place. This I will give to someone who enjoys magnetic things. Maybe I can like put these in a little duo together and give them away as a little duo. That would be very nice. And I will keep this one. So this is a Lancome Dual Finish Highlighter in Shimmering Buff. Lauren gave it to me and I kept it because it struck me as being very glossy and special and kind of subtle. And I have to say that every time I've tried to wear it, I've been a little bit disappointed with the effect. It's almost like it's ever so slightly dull, just not quite. It's a nice subtle highlight, but it's not quite the kind of glossy, natural look that I want. So I can probably part with that one, especially because it's so similar to Ofra Star Island. Star Island's a little bit more silver, but it's definitely glossy enough, and they're similar enough that I feel like Star Island can edge out this Lancome highlighter, especially because I already parted with the other Ofra highlighter, and it's nice to have one. Let's look at Tarte Exposed next to both of those. So Tarte Exposed it's more nude. It's like a little bit champagne. So on me, it's more nude. It's like a perfect match for my skin tone. It's not shining very brightly under the lights right now, but I know from experience that this is a very wet look highlighter. And I don't think I'm ready to part with it. I haven't been wearing it enough, but I don't think I'm ready to part with it. I think I'm going to hang on to that one, especially because I don't know if I'm going to keep this little palette. This was a gift from my friend April, and I kept it in the Reckoning because it's just so nice and fancy and pretty, and the palette is so pretty. It's just so pretty in every way. I've never had like an hourglass palette like this. It's just so pretty, you know? So I was not about to part with it when I reckoned with it. But since then, similar to the one from Lancome, but it's not that they don't beam, these highlighters. It's just that I've never pulled it out, worn it, and been like, yes, queen, living your best. Like, that's exactly what I wanted. I always wear it, and then I wish that I had used my Kevyn Aucoin Neo highlighter, or I wish I had used something a little bit more glossy or a little bit more blinding. It's just not quite the thing for me. And because it's this sweet little palette, I feel like I can find a friend who doesn't really own anything like this at all, who will enjoy this a lot. And then this NARS palette has bronzers in it as well as highlighters, but it's really the highlighters that mean the most to me, because this one right here, Ravage, it's sort of a white nude, is one of my all-time favorite highlighters. So I'm gonna hang on to this. I reach into this a lot. I have significant pan on this, and I've been working on these other three lately as well, because they're not quite as perfect a match for my skin tone as Ravage, but they do shine in the same way, and I really like this Bake Gelée formula from NARS. So I said that I wanted to do some damage, and I've done it. There we go. Much more manageable, and it will be much easier to focus on these and love them and get a lot of good use out of them than it was when there were so many more. I've gotten rid of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of the things that were on the table with these. So 9 if you count this one. So I decluttered 9, and I'm keeping 10, including the little magnetic singles. Awesome. So these are all of my bronzers, apart from the ones that are in that little NARS palette that I just showed you. And I can tell you right off the bat that I'm disinclined to part with any of these 4. This is the Kevyn Aucoin Neo highlighter. It's Kevyn Aucoin's 3 highlighting formulas, or 3 highlighting colors blended together in one pan, and it goes lightest to deepest, and I am able to use this deep side and even the middle side as sort of a pale rosy bronzer. But this is not really like an intense bronzing product for me. It's more like a skin warming finishing powder that makes my skin really softly glowy. It's not really glossy. It's like a soft, glowy warmth. So these are the 3 kind of bona fide bronzers that I have. They're really that like bronze color, you know what I mean? Like looking like you got sun. Let's swatch them and see how I feel. So here's the one from Fluff, and it's very buildable. It's very, very sheer, which is on purpose because it's a bronzer and it's supposed to be pretty universal. Here's the one from number 7. It's the number 7 bronzer in Warm Sands, Golden Sand, right? And then here's the one from Lila B. So of the 3, I like the Lila B one the best because it has a slight shimmer and it's also a tiny bit peachier. And that tends to be the most natural on me. So I'm definitely going to hang on to this one as my more bronzy bronzer, more bronzy than the Kevyn Aucoin product. These 2 are really similar because they're both matte and they both have that kind of buildable quality. Should I get rid of one? This is hard. I feel like I only have 4, blah, 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 but I reach for the Kevyn Aucoin products, both the Neo highlighter and the Neo bronzer that I put in the blush category. I reach for them so much more frequently than I reach for any of these. All right, I think that the fact that I do reach for my other products more than these means that I'm not quite ready to decide about them yet. My feeling, if I'm totally honest, is that The undertone of the number 7 one seems to suit me a little bit better, but I think this is so beautiful and cool. I just don't want to give it away yet. I feel like I need to spend more time with it and really learn whether it actually is something that I'm never going to use or whether I might kind of completely fall for it. I really like it. Both of these I really like, but I haven't completely fallen for either of them. It's kind of a situation where I'm not prepared to reckon with either of these in a declutter. So I'm going to keep all 4 of these bronzing products for now, and I'm going to try to use these more and get a better handle on how I feel about them. And then I'll decide in the future which one to keep, basically. Okay, so here we go. Along the top is my entire collection of blushes, bronzers, highlighters, and face palettes. And then along the bottom here are all of the blushes, bronzers, highlighters, and face palettes that I decided to give away. And then off screen, oh no, this one too, giving away this one too. Off screen, I'm keeping 4 or 5, I'll just show them to you. These are the 5 magnetic products, singles for magnetic pans that I'm keeping. And then these 2 little singles for magnetic pans I'm going to give away. And that's it. That's it for this little declutter. I feel like I did pretty well. I didn't mean to be ruthless, but 12 products are leaving my collection and I am keeping 25. So the collection of things I'm keeping is only twice as big as the number of things that I'm giving away. So that's a pretty good, gentle weeding, if I do say so myself. I am sitting down to declutter this entire part of my makeup collection. So this is all of my cheek products. It's all of my blushes, both powder and liquid, all of my highlighters, both powder and liquid, and everything that I kind of consider to be a bronzer, although for me, because I'm so fair, bronzer and blush are kind of interchangeable. I have some things that are technically called bronzers, but I tend to either use one of those or to use a blush, and I often end up doing what most people do with bronzer with blush. So it's all mixed together in this box. This is everything. And I decided to declutter it all at once. I'm going to start by taking everything out of this box. I keep it in this box in my drawer of my vanity. That's why it's in the box here. But I'm going to take it out of this box and just look at it all laid out on the table, and then I'm going to decide what I want to do first. This is so weird, this stain on this Oprah blush. Some of the stuff that I've had like sitting around with some of my makeup, like some pieces of paper that I had that was near my makeup got some stains like this on it a couple of months ago, and I couldn't figure out what the stains were coming from, and I don't know what this is either. I'm going to try to clean it off and see if I can get this clean. Helped a little bit, but it's really stubborn, this stain, and it's so weird that I can't figure out what it is. Yeah, I feel like that's the best I can do right now. It's a really stubborn spot and it's super weird. I think that if I sit down later with maybe some like cleaning products and really scrub at it, I can probably get it clean. But I'm not gonna do that now because we've got to get the show on the road. So this is everything. I think that that's everything. I think everything is somewhat in frame. And you know, it's not excessive as the collections go of people who are on YouTube, especially people who receive PR. I definitely don't keep everything that I receive, and I don't keep like every single color if I receive a whole range, and sometimes I don't keep any colors. But for me, it's too much for me to like really use. Like it's too much for me to make real, true active use of, and maybe more importantly, because I do tend to care more about like the sparks joy principle. Like I care more about the joy that it brings me and the feelings that I have about owning them. So perhaps more importantly, it's too much for me to hold in my makeup mind palace. It's too much for me to like actively and consistently love and feel like super excited about. It's like I don't have enough love to go around to every single one of these products. So some of them need to be weeded out and go to people who will be able to love them better. Okay, I'm going to go category by category. I'm going to start with blush because I think it's probably the biggest category. And I'm not sure if I want to do my liquid and cream blushes separately from my powder blushes. I don't know. I think the first thing I need to do is separate out all of the blushes and look at them all and see whether it makes sense to just declutter them as one category or to separate them out into two categories. I realized as I was sorting through that the e.l.f. Active Workout Ready Lip and Cheek Palette was in a little box next to the spot where I'm doing my makeup these days. I don't really have any face palettes. I learned along the way that I much prefer singles when it comes to blushes and highlighters, and then I tend to reach for them over and over. This is so little that even though it's a palette, it can be in the drawer where I keep these things, and so I don't tend to overlook it in favor of singles. I reach for it a lot. I also often mix all four of these together on my cheeks, and so I kind of treat it like a single pan of product. Like it's sort of like a swirled product that's separated out. So it really functions like a single for me. And I mean, look at it. It's like smaller than the Kevyn Aucoin Neo highlighter. So these are all of my blushes. I chose to keep highlighting products that have color in them that I consider to be blushes in this pile. And that's, you know, this Pillow Talk highlighter from Charlotte Tilbury, the Kevyn Aucoin Neo highlighter, as I was just saying, even this Stila Putty, the Heaven's Hue, I've realized that I just tend to wear it as a blush. I don't layer it with colorful things. So I don't treat it as a highlighter. I treat it as like the color that's on my cheeks. And this is so much of what was in that box. I'm looking just off camera to the left here at the things that I pulled out of frame when I sorted out the blushes from everything else. There are only 13 things over there off frame. So this is like the vast majority of what I'm dealing with in that box. And because it's such a lot, and because when I'm about to apply cheek products, I do tend to decide whether I want to apply cream or powder before I decide which product I'm going to apply, because that tends to be my process. I think that I will go ahead and separate out the cream cheeks, the colorful cream cheek products, and start with them as their own small category. Haha, I said that it was going to be its own small category, but we can see now what has happened this year, right? My little box of cheek products has become pretty overfull, and this is the culprit. It's cream blushes. At the beginning of the year, you may remember, I realized that I really, really love cream blush, but that I didn't have very many. Which are the ones here that I had at the beginning of the year? I think that I definitely had the Glossier Cloud Paint. I definitely had the Holika Holika New Drop Lumi Cheek that had come in PR from Yes Style. I had the Lila Be Lovely Cream Blush. This is also a lip and cheek. I already had this one, the one from ColourPop. That was one that I entered 2020 in possession of. I can't remember about the CoverGirl Clean Fresh Cream Blush. I can't remember when these launched. Lauren gave these to me, my friend Lauren, who runs the YouTube channel Lauren May Beauty. And I can't remember whether it was at the end of last year or the beginning of this year, but let's just say, for the sake of it, that it was, that I did already have them. Oh, I definitely already had this Stila Putty highlighter, which I use as a blush. Tara sent this to me during my no-buy year. But I think that that's it. I think that all of these, I mean, the Curewise compacts, I owned the compacts already, but I refilled them in January by buying inserts. And actually, technically, this one's a bronzer, and it's a pretty bronze bronzer, so I'm going to go ahead and put that with the bronzers. I'm not going to put it with the bronzers. I'm not going to do the bronzers separately. I think that all told, I just have like 3 products that are considered bronzers. So I'm just going to do them with the blushes. But yeah, that means that these are all of the liquid and cream blush products that I have acquired during this calendar year. And it's because I really fell for this type of product and I have really loved all of them and used all of them. It's just that I don't think that I want to carry all of them forward with me. And I also am strongly aware that I would not have acquired all of these if I weren't on YouTube and if I didn't receive PR and review products online. So the ones that I purchased myself in January are this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. So I bought these 5 for myself because I wanted them. I wanted to own them and love them, and I bought them with my budget. This Patrick Ta blush I bought later in the year for the same reason. I bought this with my own budget for myself because I wanted to own it and love it. These are the products that I purchased with my channel budget for review. The Danessa Myricks Dew Wet Balm and the ZC Liquid Blush. I bought that for review as well. The Glossier Cloud Paint in Dawn I got from the Glossier website with credit, like store credit that I had accrued because of people clicking through my link. There's just like a regular referral program that they have where if you have purchased something from Glossier in the past, you can share your link with your friends, and if they use it, then you get credit for products on their site. So some of you had used my link and I had credit and I used it for this. And so that is, in a way, getting something for review because I wouldn't have spent my own money on this, but I got it because I wanted to talk about it on my channel. So I feel like that goes in the same category. And then the Pillow Talk Beauty Light Wand, I purchased this later in the year. This is in the shade Pillow Talk Medium. I purchased that again for myself because I believed that I would love it and wanted it. Spoiler alert, I didn't end up loving it, but it belongs in this category. And then all of the rest of this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, these 8 products all came in PR this year. So this is all stuff that brands sent me for the purpose of review that I decided to keep and to put into my personal collection of makeup. So what that means is that theoretically, if I didn't have a YouTube channel and if I didn't sometimes buy or receive products for review on my channel, I would have only expanded my cream blush collection this year by this many products. So I would only have 7 more products in my collection than I have, as opposed to the 18 more products that are here. And then again, here are the ones with which I started the year. But this one was also PR. And this one was also PR, right? And these 3 were gifts from friends who I know through YouTube, right? These are the only 2 that I started the year with that I had purchased with my own money. And I'm pointing this out just to help you guys think about this, because I think that frequently viewers watch declutters on YouTube. One of the things that can be really misleading about watching declutters on YouTube is that it normalizes having enormous collections of makeup that you constantly purge. And I think that that is normal for people who are on YouTube. As someone who receives a little bit of PR and who buys things for a review as a way of keeping my channel kind of vibrant to keep things moving, I can tell you that when you're in this position, when you're doing this work, it is normal to have a pretty robust collection, especially of the kinds of products that you love and that you love to review, and then to frequently turn over those products so that you can give things away relatively untouched, and so that you can, make space to continue reviewing things, because it is a part-time job. But these are the only 2 things that I started the year with that I bought myself. So this is, in a way, what I would have had. Like, this is what would have been normal for me if I didn't have a YouTube channel. And then it would have been normal for me to buy, 6 or 7 new things this year, because a little cream blush collection of something like 10 products, that feels exactly right for the Hannah in an alternate universe who doesn't do work on YouTube. So I know that a lot of you love this kind of content, you enjoy watching it, and you can make a separation in your minds between what I am showing, what I am doing, and what maybe is like a good idea for you or what's aspirational for you. But I want to be really articulate about that, because there's a huge difference between a collection like this, which is the stuff I chose and paid for, and this whole thing, which I am now driven to declutter because there's so much of it. Okay, chat over. Let's get down to business. I think that I just need to go one at a time. And I think that given where I'm at in my relationship with my beautiful things, I think I just need to go on instinct. One of my favorite ways to go on instinct in a declutter is to just start pulling the things one at a time that I love the most, like the things that I feel the most excited about right now, that I would be the most loath to relinquish. So I think that that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put this pile here. I'm going to zoom you in. And then one by one, I'm going to pull the things that I feel the most confident that I don't want to declutter, and we'll watch the pile dwindle, and then we'll take a good hard look at the things that are left over. All right, I just zoomed you in a little bit because I want everything to stay in frame. This is more, I might swatch a little bit here and there as I go through, but this is really more about like the act of sorting through everything than it is about the colors and the qualities of the actual products. So right away, right, this is the e.l.f. palette that I recently received in PR. It's my favorite cream formula ever. I absolutely love the highlighter. I love the colors. I love the way that it all blends together. I've been wearing it constantly. I can't get enough. I've already hit pan on the highlighter, as you can see, and it's got this gorgeous brown. I mean, this gorgeous brown, like that's the way to my heart. This beautiful, really natural color for me. Just everything about it is perfect. And it's the thing when I just glance at this that I the most don't want to give up. So I'm definitely going to be keeping that. And here's what springs to my hand next. It's the Cosmetics Color Drop Serum Blushes. And I'm as sure as I can be that part of the reason that I feel the way that I feel about these, which is, very excited, is that they're relatively new to me. They're not super new. I've had them probably for 2 months or like a month and a half, because Cosmetics sent 6 of them to me, and then it took a long time for the other 2 to arrive so that I could do the video that I did. I did like a really close-up, intense video of these guys. And in that time, I was testing them out. So I've been wearing them pretty consistently. It's not like they're brand new and I've only worn them a couple times and like that's why they're exciting to me. But they're on the newer side, newer to me than much of what is here. So I know that part of the excitement is just the allure of the novel, like the excitement of the new. But I do really, really love the finish of these. And I really love these 3 colors. I'm not going to go on at length about them right now because I did that really thorough review, and I'll try to remember to link it down below. But I definitely want to hang on to these. I'm going to keep all 3 of them in my collection. So I'm looking at what's left, and I'm asking myself, if I didn't have those things that I just put out of frame, and I looked into my blush drawer and I wanted to wear a cream or liquid, like what would I feel the most drawn to? What would I feel the most excited about? And curiously, this Patrick Ta, it's 2 things that I thought of that sprung to mind. It was these Kjaer Weis blushes and this Patrick Ta blush. And I think that it's because they are so high end, and I bought them with my own money. And I do really love the formulas, and I also do really love the colors. So this is Patrick Ta She's So LA. This is Kjaer Weis Joyful. And this is, I think this is called Radiance. It's the lighter Kjaer Weis bronzer. So obviously these colors are my colors. I mean, you saw it with the e.l.f. palette. It's like, this is what is going on. Like, we all know what's going on here. This is just like what I love. The formulas are beautiful, but I also value these things, as I was saying, because they have a quality of preciousness that comes from the quality of the packaging, the delivery, and the branding. And that is okay, especially when I've decided to spend a little bit more money for that reason. But you know, I feel like I really enjoy wearing these. I love the experience of using them. I've been overlooking them a little bit for the e.l.f. palette. I've just been grabbing the e.l.f. palette over and over again lately. I think partly because I just feel like this is a little easier to mess around. I mean, I do love the formula, but I also just, it's so just like ooey gooey and cheapy peepy that I feel like I can just kind of dig into it and mess it up and like put it all over. It's so creamy. It feels like the product that's in the pans is disposable in this way that these don't quite feel, because they are fancier. Although you can see that I have hit pan on this one. I mean, I've been using this, and I bought this in January. I bought both of these pans in January, and then I bought this one a little bit later in the year, shortly after he released this collection. This does have a powder blush in it, but I just think of it as a cream blush because that's really what I bought it for. In any case, I love these beautiful things. I love these 3 blushes, and I definitely want to keep them. They're some of my favorites. Looking at what's left, these stand out to me, these Lila B Lip and Cheek products. I really like this formula. I think that one of the things I really like about the e.l.f. Active palette is that it kind of reminds me of this Lila B formula, but it's a little bit dewier. I like these really, really creamy, thick and creamy, pigmented products. Oh God, I'm not used to having nails like this. I put these nails on just for this video. Like, I popped them on and then I painted them. These are the longest nails I've ever had on in my life, and I can't do anything. I mean, I literally can't. Like, I can't swatch this product. Right, there we go. Yeah, you can see, hopefully, well, maybe you can, but you can see that the pigment is there. It's got this really rich, almost like a matte, but it has body. That's how I feel about these. And I also feel that way about the e.l.f. Active. It has body, and the quality of the product is that it's not sticky, because it's definitely not sticky. It has body in the way that like a bullet lipstick does. They feel like bullet lipsticks that have been pressed into pans. And a lot of cream cheek products don't feel that way. A lot of cream cheeks feel thinner. A lot of liquid cheek products feel much slicker, more serum-y. And stick products, I feel like, tend to also have a different quality because they're less smooshable. You know what I mean? There's just like a little bit more silicone and a little bit more like, yeah, like a little more sheerness, a little bit more slip. Whereas these Lila B products and the e.l.f. Active palette, they just have this like stickiness, this sticky, super pigmented, lipsticky quality about them that I have learned is my favorite quality in a cream cheek. I mean, look at that. Like, the pigment is so intense, and hopefully you could see, but it's very similar to the Lila B one, even though the color is different. Here's this one has pretty similar color. You can see how similar that quality of pigment is. And I think that one of the reasons that I love the e.l.f. palette so much is that it reminds me of these, or rather, the thing that I love about it is the thing that I love about these as well. And I would be loath to see these exit my collection, although you can already see on my hand that the e.l.f. one has a bit more sheen. You see that glossiness, and I think that that's one of the things that's kept me reaching for it even over these since it entered my collection. Okay, so this is what's left. Actually, let's talk about Glossier Dusk, because I've realized recently how special this is in terms of color. It's got that soft brown quality that is hard to find. It's almost unmatched. This is one of the oldest pieces of makeup in my collection. I think I've had it since they launched pretty much. I mean, I think I've had it maybe since like 2015 or 2016. And it's also almost completely used up, which is pretty impressive for a cloud paint because a little goes such a long way with them. But I do love the color and I am going to keep this. Another thing that springs immediately to my hand is the Danessa Myricks Dew Wet Balm. I really love this product. This is in the shade Rosewater, and this is something that it does still have. I feel like I can't open it with these nails. It does still have some of that novelty factor because I purchased it for review earlier in the year, but I just feel all the feelings when I look at it, and I feel really excited about wearing it more. I wish I were wearing it more. I'd like to start mixing it with some other things. I want to like mix it with the M Cosmetics ones and mix it with the e.l.f. Active Workout Ready Lip and Cheek palette. It's just really my jam, and I'm going to keep it. This is another similar to Glossier Dusk. This is by ZC. It's their Silky Liquid Blush in 02, which I believe is called Milk Tea. And this is another color that's difficult to come by. It's really light. It's really light and pretty neutral. And I really like that about it. And I haven't had it for that long, so I haven't had that many chances to wear it. But I do want to keep a hold of it because I remember when I was trying to decide what to do with it, when I was reckoning with it, I looked at it and compared it to several of my other blushes and I found it to be unique. So I'm glad that this is in my collection. I'm glad I decided to review it and I'm going to keep it. All right, we're in kind of a curious position now because looking at what's left, and some of you might be kind of shocked by this. I'm going to zoom you in. Some of you might be shocked by this or find this to be unexpected because you know that some of my favorites are still here, right? So the CoverGirl Clean Fresh Cream Blush in Flushed is a blush that I really, really love. I also get a lot of use out of the ColourPop blush sticks in Roosevelt. So I'm pretty sure I'm not going to declutter those. The Rituel Defee Inner Glow Cream Pigment in Eros, which is like that really brown pigment, really brown cream pigment, I really, really love. I can't really see myself decluttering that either. I also love the Can Make Cream Cheek. It's a very fluffy formula, a very sort of whipped and very easy to apply formula. I often end up reaching for it more for the feel of the formula and the application than for the color. So there are several products here that I really love and that you guys know that I love. I wanted to first pull out the things that were really giving me a tingle in my loins. And I think that some of these things that are here that I really love, like this one, it's great and I'm going to keep it and I wear it all the time, but it belongs in this edit of things that didn't immediately grip me as being like so precious and so special and like just making me feel all the feelings and like sending a shiver up and down my spine. It's a little bit unaccountable, right? Because I love this. And it might just be the season that I'm in. Like I went through a season where I was really into it. And now I'm kind of going through a season where there are other things that I'm wearing more that are springing more to my mind, but I feel pretty confident that it's going to come back around. So I'm going to go ahead and pull those things. Like it's things that I definitely want to keep that I feel like it would be foolish for me to get rid of, but that I don't currently feel like I love with the passion of 1,000 burning suns. So that's this. I think that that's the ColourPop blush sticks, although I might do some swatching with this when we do like the last pass. That's this as well. I'm going to keep, and the Can Make Cream Cheek, that's this as well. So I'm going to keep those guys. The Holika Holika New Drop Bloomy Cheek is a really interesting case because it's almost panned. I mean, look at that. I mean, it's almost panned. And there have been several times when I've shopped my stash for this to try to use it up. And I have brought it through several declutters. I've never once wanted to declutter this because I really, really love the way that it looks. But I'm starting to feel like it's really just plaguing me. Like it's really, really just hanging on. And I think that also as it's gotten close to the end, as I've like only gotten a little bit left, like there's only a little bit left, I've sort of felt less prone to reach for it because it's like, it's really lived its life with me already. But gosh, I can't bring myself to declutter it when it's so close to being completely panned. I really want to use it up completely. I've been dragging my feet. I think I need to keep it, but I think that maybe I just need to spend a solid week using nothing but this on my cheeks and then have it be done with. So it's kind of a special case, but I am going to turn it into an empty. And to do that, I have to keep it. All right, here's what's left. These are all the ones that I really don't feel like actively passionate about in one way or another. All of them are on the chopping block. Let's go through them one by one. So let's start with this. This is tough, and I'll tell you why. It's because I bought it this year. And so if I don't keep it, I'm going to be doing something that I was really hoping not to do this year, which is decluttering something that I bought myself. And I don't like that because ideally, when I buy things, I make such a careful decision, such a considered decision, that I end up loving the thing and keeping it. It can be a little bit hard with makeup, though, because with many kinds of makeup, especially drugstore makeup, which this is, you can't know how it's going to wear on your skin and how much you're going to like it until you have it in your collection. You can't really know how the color is going to swatch. And I think that that's one of the things that contributes to the culture of like buying a bunch of stuff and then throwing away a lot of it, that feels sometimes like it permeates the makeup community. I don't want to contribute to that culture, and I also don't want to enact that culture in my life. But there are things that I have found out about this over the course of the year that I didn't know before I got it, that I couldn't have known without getting it. When I bought it, I did fully expect to super love it and to use it up. And I do love the finish. I feel like it's the closest possible dupe to the ones from Cosmetics. But it is so messy. And I don't mind things getting dirty. Like you've seen my entire collection. It's like kind of grimy and dirty. But this is like, it's really, really messy on the inside of this clear lid. And I have to say, it does keep me from reaching for it as often as I would, because it just doesn't feel like the user experience that one would desire. So I'm like cleaning it up right now as we speak, but you know, I just am not someone who does this all the time, who like goes into her collection and cleans her makeup. I'm not cleaning it every time I use it. And it feels like no matter how hard I try, it gets messy. And so that has like made it just not feel as precious to me, like not feel as special to me. And, you know, again, if I didn't have a YouTube channel, if I didn't have these blushes to choose from that have come in PR, I wouldn't let that bother me. But the fact of the matter is that I have too much liquid blush. I have not used most of this. Like there's a lot of it left, so I could still give it away to somebody, clean it up, give it away, and someone could get a ton of good use out of it. And I have a feeling that I'm going to be reaching for the ones from Cosmetics, which are so similar, but which I slightly prefer. I'm going to be reaching for them over this. So, you know, if I didn't have a YouTube channel, and I wouldn't have bought these Cosmetics ones. I only have them because they were sent to me for review. And if I had just bought this instead and I hadn't bought any from Cosmetics, then the formula would be very unique to my collection, and I would keep it. But because my life is what it is, and because I loved 3 of these Cosmetics blushes so much that I decided to keep them, I think that it makes the most sense for me to give this away. It may be the only thing that I purchased with my budget this year that I also decided to give away this year. I hope that it's the only thing. But I don't want to keep it just so that I can say that I didn't declutter anything that I bought with my budget, because my authentic feeling is that it will have a happier life with someone else. So I'm going to go ahead and give this one away. The CoverGirl Clean Fresh Cream Blush in Butterflies. I do really love this formula, and I do really like this color, but I do find that it tends to give me a slightly patchier look than this one, than Flushed. There's something about the depth of the pigment. It doesn't combine as well with the metallic pigments that are mixed in. And it's also, even though it looks brown, It's very close in color to a lot of other blushes in my collection. So the Patrick Ta She's So LA blush ends up wearing pretty similar to this. Lila B Be Lovely ends up swatching and wearing really, really similar to this one. And I do reach for it from time to time, but I think that if I didn't have it in my collection, I would be more inclined to reach for those. And I think that that's what I want for myself. So I'm going to give this one away too. This Stila thing, it's tough. I have sentimental attachment to this because Tara sent it to me during my no buy year. It was so delightful to connect with her. It was so generous of her, and she sent it to me because she thought that I would really love it, and she was right. But you know, it's the thing is that this putty formula, which I wear it as a blush because it does end up having like a good bit of color on me, but really it's a highlighter. I mean, it's kind of in the wrong place. It doesn't play well with others for me, like a putty like this. I don't like layering it over other things because it ends up giving me kind of that metallic stripe. And I find that if I try to mix it with a highlighter, mix it with a liquid, even sometimes just mixing it with a foundation product that's on my cheek, like anything I try to mix it with, it's not that it rejects it or pills up or anything. It's just that because it's a putty, it's kind of dry. It just doesn't give that super blended, extremely skin-like, set into your skin look that I love these days. And for that reason, it's really been a long time since I wore it. And every time I've worn it over the past year, it's because I feel like I should be wearing it more and I should try it again to make sure that I want to keep it. And every time I'm not that happy with it, and then I never reach for it again until it occurs to me again that I should try it again. It's just, we've drifted. We've drifted apart. I think that it's time for it to go. The Daniel Sandler watercolor blush in Luxe. So I really had a lot of curiosity about this product, and I was really excited when Skin Store offered to send these to me. And I loved playing with them. I've loved having them. And then I never reach for them when it's not like a YouTube occasion. And it's partly because this color, Luxe, has ended up just being like a peach. It's like a straight up peach. And it just doesn't give me anything. And it definitely doesn't give me anything that other blushes don't. You know, it's not like unique color wise to me. It's a very standard soft peach blush. But I also find the formula kind of hard to control. It's like so pigmented and so watery, and it just goes everywhere. And it is very beautiful. And the effect is very beautiful. And so when I was reckoning with this and thinking about whether or not I would keep it, it sort of felt like a no-brainer. I was like, I'm definitely keeping it. And then every time I almost reach for it, I go for a cream or a more viscous liquid blush instead. This is also very giftable. It's in good shape. I think I'm going to give it away. Glossier Dawn. This does not look good on me. It just looks like ketchup on my face. It's so bright. It's so yellowy orange. The only thing this is good for in my collection is comparisons to other bright blushes. And I don't want to keep it for that reason. I know a lot of times YouTubers do. They like hang on to things because they want to be able to do swatch comparisons. And even though it's good to be able to do swatch comparisons, it's not worth it to me to have something extra hanging around just to compare it with other things. I'm going to give this away to someone who will wear it better than I do. This is kind of hard to decide about though. The 3CE Take a Layer Pot in Morning Skinny. It's like a really brilliant coral. It's pretty matte. It's kind of silicone-y. I haven't gotten enough wear out of this because it does have a little bit more of that crayon-y pigment quality than I think I give it credit for. And the packaging's so beautiful. I'm going to keep this. I'm not ready to let this go. Oh, you guys, this is tough. This is tough stuff. So I bought this for myself with my budget. Oh, you know, I talked about thinking that this might be, the Physicians Formula might be the only thing that I bought with my budget this year that I ended up decluttering. But this is a real candidate for that as well. But this one I don't feel as mixed up about because I think that it's because the Physicians Formula one, I do love it. Like I ended up buying it and really loving how it looked on my face and using it. not as much as I expected to, but using it throughout the year. I think it's really special. I don't think in the abstract, like in theory, that it was a bad buy for me, but the fact of my life and the fact that I have like this abundance of stuff and the fact that I don't want to have too much is what's driving me to declutter it. And that's not my like favorite thing, to have spent my money on something and then to be like, but I just have this abundance and so I don't need to keep this. That's why I felt a little bit mixed up about that one. This is a very different story. This I wanted for ever, like for like a year. Like as soon as she came out with these, the Beauty Light wands in these deeper colors, this is the deepest and most coppery one. And as soon as she came out with them, I was like, I want that one because I own the Beauty Light wand in Spotlight. I own the liquid highlighter and it's my all-time favorite liquid highlighter. And the idea of having a pigmented one, like one that I could wear as a blush, delighted me to no end. I was like really passionately excited about one day acquiring this. And eventually I just couldn't take it anymore. I bought it for myself and it just doesn't look right on me. It's a liquid highlight for deep skin tones. It's not a blush for somebody who's incredibly fair, which is what I am. And it just catches the light funny on my cheeks and it doesn't look like a blush. It doesn't look right. It looks like I'm wearing something that doesn't suit me. And it's crushing because like it looks so beautiful here on my hand. Like that looks like the most beautiful blush I could ever desire, like this coppery, rich coppery blush. And looking at the swatch makes me want to keep it. It just doesn't look good. And I don't wear it because it doesn't look good and I shouldn't keep it. I should give it to someone who will wear it better than I do. In theory, if I were a different kind of consumer, I could return it. Like I could have returned it because I kind of figured it out within the first month or so of having it that it wasn't going to be what I thought that it was going to be. But I'm trying not to do that anymore. I had a problem before my no-buy year when I was a big overspender with counting on being able to return things and using that as an excuse to buy more stuff than I could afford. So I would like buy stuff and be like, well, if it doesn't work out, I can always return it. Or I would also use it as an excuse to buy things that I wasn't totally sure I wanted. I did a lot of like buying it just to try it. And I really want to be someone who only buys something if she's pretty sure or entirely sure, like convinced that she's going to love it. I really just want to buy stuff that I know that I'm going to keep and love. And keeping the returning option open, it wears away at my conviction to only buy stuff that I really am convinced that I'm going to keep and love, that I optimistically hope that I will keep and love. It kind of encourages me to slip back into the direction of buying just to try, and I don't want to do that. So part of that for me, part of this new way of life, this way of life in which I don't buy stuff just to try it, but I only buy it if I think I'm going to love and keep it. Part of that is not returning something, even when it doesn't work out for me. And, you know, I'll be able to give this away. I can give it to someone and that's great. And even though it hurts a little bit to be out the $40 or something that this cost, it's kind of a loss. Like it's a really expensive thing to think that you're going to love and then to end up not loving and just to give away. It's worth $40 to me to not be someone who's like returning makeup. It's worth it to me. So I am not going to keep this, but I'm also not going to return it, even though I bought it myself. I'm going to give it away as a gift. And this last little thing, this is the Stila convertible color in Peony. This came in PR recently, and I kept it because I really, really like the formula. It does have that super pigmented lipsticky quality that I was talking about loving, but it is less thick, kind of less rich and a little bit more slick than the other cream blushes that I was talking about that have that kind of lipsticky quality. It's just that the pigment is really there, right? But let me see if it's a color dupe for any of these other ones that I'm keeping, because if it is, I don't feel passionate about it enough to keep it. And yeah, it's looking like it's probably really similar. Well, they're pretty similar, but the e.l.f. one is just a little bit warmer. It's like a little more peachy, and Peony is more cool toned. But are they close enough to be worth keeping? Let's look at this Lila B. So this is Lila BB Incredible. And you can see that Lila BB Incredible does look pretty similar to the one from e.l.f. in terms of undertone. It's kind of like between the two of these, but they're more similar to each other. There's the ZC blush, kind of similar and also light, but not exactly the same. So curiously, this Stila convertible color, it isn't, like, if I were just choosing between these two and that was going to be it, I would probably choose the one that's a little bit warmer. But it is pretty different from anything in my, I don't actually have anything quite like this. And it's pretty new to me. I think I'm going to go ahead and hang on to that. I have really let a lot of cream blush go just now. I'm going to give that one to myself. I'm just going to keep it, keep using it, see how I feel in a couple months. Okay, so here is my new slightly edited collection of cream blushes, although this Holika Holika one will hopefully be out of my collection soon. And Glossier Dusk might also be not long for this world, but these are they. And then these are the ones that I am going to part with. It's not a very high percentage. I'm keeping 19, probably soon to be 18. So I'm keeping, 18-ish, and I am decluttering 6, but I feel good about it. This is the stuff that I love the most, so I'm happy to have a diversity from which to choose. All right, y'all, these are my powder blushes and bronzers. I'm doing it all as one. This is a much smaller category, and so it's going to be much harder. I'm not really sure what, if anything, will depart today from this collection. Let's open them up. You might say that I have a type. They're all different to me, okay? They're all different. They are all different. They look really different. That's different. They're so pretty. This is making me, you guys, it just felt like a tingle in my loins for powder blush and bronzer. I haven't felt that in a long time, but I'm looking at this and I'm like, I want to put powders on my cheeks. So this is interesting. This finger right here has on it, here I'm going to zoom you in actually. This right here is the Cosmetics Faded Clementine blush. And this on my pinky here is the shiny side of the Start Inspired, no, the River bronzer, which is Samantha's collab with Ofra. I don't think they look exactly the same, but they look kind of similar. Oh yeah, the River bronzer. Okay, so actually swatched, they do look different. This is the Cosmetics Faded Clementine blush right there, and that's the shiny side of the River bronzer. It's a bit more cool toned. So yeah, when I had them on my fingers, I thought that they maybe had something in common. And here are the other two. That's the Sundown Blush Light from Melt, and that's Clinique Nude Pop. All right, y'all, here's what's going on. There's not a single product here that's leaping to my hand as being one that I'm happy to part with. Like, I don't feel lukewarm about any of them. And none of them sort of stand above the others as being like the ones that I would be the least happy to part with. Although I have been using the Kevyn Aucoin Neo Bronzer in Sunrise Light a lot lately. Like, this has been on my cheeks almost every time I've worn a powder product for months now. So this is like probably my favorite right now. But they're all so beautiful to me, so special, and I also don't feel like this is an oversized collection of powder blushes for me. Like, this is all of them. I don't have any blush cheek palettes. Like, I don't have any powder blush palettes among my palettes. I don't have any bronzers or bronzer palettes or powder face palettes or anything. Like, this is literally all of them. I am gonna swatch around and see if there are any two that are like literally exact dupes. If there are any exact repetitions here, like 2 that are just for all intents and purposes the complete same, then I might be able to hold my feet to the fire a little bit. But if there aren't, I'll probably keep them all. There just aren't, you guys. There aren't any dupes. There aren't any doubles. I was surprised to see that Clinique Nude Pop and Miel Glacé from Lancome have more in common than I've imagined them to have. But Miel Glacé is just a little bit more cool toned, ever so slightly. Neither one of them is a cool toned blush, but it is just ever so slightly. And they're all really pretty radically different in color, especially when applied to my very white face, if not in finish. And the ones that are a little bit similar in color tend to be pretty radically different in finish. So I'm just gonna go ahead and keep these. And gosh, I think I might be about to like start on another phase of connecting with my powder, blushes, and bronzers because I feel really excited about all of these. But before I take them off the table, I'll zoom you in and I'll just talk through them one by one, let you know what they are, what the color names are, and why I'm keeping them. So this is Cosmetics Faded Clementine Blush, Heaven's Hue Blush in Faded Clementine. And it is like a rich kind of bronzy blush, really lovely and shimmery, although not as shimmery as this one from Melt. And it just has more of an orange undertone, but it's like that burnt orange that I can really wear more than any of the other ones here. So this one is Sundown. It's the blush light from Melt. Lacey sent that to me as a gift, and this one was PR. They're pretty similar in color, but you can see that they're not similar in finish at all. And when they're swatched, you can see that the blush light actually is like more of a bronze tone, and Faded Clementine, it's really that Faded Clementine color, that really beautiful orange color. Let's look at these two because they're the ones that I was surprised to find are kind of similar. So this is Clinique Nude Pop. It was a gift from Julia, actually, sometime last year, I think. And it's a pretty, it's a pretty nude blush, even on someone as pale as I am. And then this is Lancome Miel Glacé, which is just like a really great go-to, just, like a wash of soft shimmery color, but it can be built up to be pretty intense on me. That's the Clinique blush, and that's Miel Glacé. So you can see Miel Glacé has like a little bit more capacity for depth and is a little bit more cool toned. This is the Chiclet Blush Duo, which is part of Samantha March's collab with Ofra. Ofra makes really good powders, just really pigmented, really beautiful finishes, really beautiful to apply, and this is a really pretty one. And then I'm going to swatch it next to this one, which is Mocha Havana Shimmer. Yeah, I thought they might have something in common, but they really don't. Mocha Havana Shimmer is just more brown. Yeah, so there's Mocha Havana Shimmer, and there's the Chiclet Blush. That's both of them mixed together, obviously. It's a really pretty color. There's the River Bronzer, Samantha's bronzer, and then this is like my go-to blush, although it's marketed as a bronzer. It's the Kevyn Aucoin Neo Bronzer in Sunrise Light. It's funny to see how light the Kevyn Aucoin Neo Bronzer is on my hand. Sorry, y'all, I got cut off and I had to change the battery pack. I don't know how much of that we lost, but I was saying that it's funny to see this Kevyn Aucoin bronzer swatched out here and looking so pale, because I tend to get a pretty dramatic look when I build it up on my cheeks. I think of this, which is the Kevyn Aucoin Neo Highlighter in Sahara, as being my really kind of like super pale bronzer. Like this is like a really easy to wear bronzer for pale skin tones. I bronze up with my neck with it, and I bronze up like, I can sculpt my face with it. You can see that even though it's supposed to be a highlighter, it's like these 3 colors of highlighter mixed together, especially if I include much of the darker cool toned one. That's a great like contouring bronzer for me. And then this is like my really dramatic blush if I want to build it up so they look really sculpted on my cheeks. But swatched out, both of them are just so incredibly pale, especially compared to these richer blushes. But that was fun. That was really, really fun. I definitely don't need any more powder blushes. I'm feeling like these 9 are like totally enough for me when it comes to powder cheek products, blushes and bronzers. But it's nice to like have reconnected with them just now and to feel excited about using them in the coming weeks. All right, these are all the highlighters. Actually, this isn't a highlighter. This is it, you know, it's this little Kevyn Aucoin setting powder, the Neo setting powder. It's supposed to be matte to glow, like it's supposed to have a matte side and a glow side. I just find it to be a slightly illuminating setting powder, and I do use it as a powder, so it's in the wrong place. It's not a highlighter. Oh, and I forgot this. My little guy didn't make it in. So these are all of my highlighting products, and I am just going to do them all together because, well, I'll separate them out, like, but I'll keep them all in frame, but I'll separate them out because they're just, you know, there aren't that many of them. So we have the ones that are in compacts, which are mostly powders, although this Fenty one is arguably kind of a putty. And then we have the liquid and jelly and cream cheeks over here. So let's do what I did with the blushes, the cream and liquid blushes, which is to pull the beloveds to begin with, right? So this is like my all-time favorite highlighter and my all-time favorite cream highlighter. I just feel like it's the only one that I'll ever need because it blends beautifully with other products, sets down completely, and it really looks wet. I'm on my way to using it up completely. It's the Charlotte Tilbury Beauty Light Wand in Spotlight, and I would like to just, you know, continue using it until I use it up completely. So I'm definitely going to hang on to that one. In theory, this e.l.f. highlighter here, the e.l.f. liquid highlight, is kind of like an e.l.f. version of that one from Charlotte Tilbury, an e.l.f. stand-in that it is a liquid highlighter, but it's not exactly the same because it's got some oil. Like, in fact, you can see that. I don't know if you could see because yeah, you can see, even though you're kind of zoomed out. Did you see how like oil came out first? It's very oil based, and so you can see that it looks stunning. I mean, it's like really reflective and gorgeous, but it has that greasy, stunning look because it is oily. However, it doesn't have that annoying stickiness that sometimes cream or liquid cheeks have when they don't dry down. They like stay tacky on the cheeks. It doesn't stay tacky. And I found that I have a much higher threshold of tolerance for products that don't dry down when they aren't tacky, but rather just kind of slick like this. And I do think that this is really stunning. I love how sheer it is, and I think it would make a really beautiful body highlighter. So I don't see this as like a less perfect version of this. I see it as being something that I could maybe slather all over my face and body. It's like something I could see using for editorial purposes at some point. I like having it, even though it's not like my favorite ever liquid highlighter and it's just the absolute most amazing gem. That's this, but I am going to keep this as well. These though, you guys, I just don't like having them. They make me feel guilty, like this weird combination of guilt for like not using them and guilt because I wanted them for so long. And then I was really excited when Skin Store offered to send them to me, and I like tried them and wore them a bunch, and I felt like they were really great, and they do give a really beautiful effect. And a lot of times when I wear them, people are like, your skin's so glowy, what are you wearing, blah 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 blah. But it's like I like them and I appreciate them, but I just don't love them, and I just don't feel the feelings about them the way that I feel about these two products. And I feel like until this moment, I haven't really seen the truth, which is that I just haven't fallen for them. And similar to the blush, they're so giftable, they're in great shape. I haven't really used much of either of them. I think that I can give them away and I'll never miss them. Oh, I was supposed to be pulling the things that I really love, and I just started out on the liquids. But let's go back to pulling the things that I really love, that I feel excited about. And you know, these two highlighters, it's so funny, these powders, I'm really into them. This Lacey also sent me, she had repressed it, and it's the Marilyn highlighter from JD Glow, and it's one of those just like pop-in cheekbones beauty guru highlighters. Like it's absolutely insane. And this is the Ofra Madison Miller highlight. It's another very beauty guru highlight. These Ofra highlights tend to also be absolutely insane. So there's the Ofra, and there's the JD Glow. It's like really intense, really creamy. These, like in theory, if I were some sort of real makeup minimalist, I wouldn't need both of them. They are slightly different in color. Marilyn's more gold. I was about to say it's golder. That's how long I've been filming. Marilyn is more gold, and it's a little bit thicker. It's like a little bit more creamy, a little bit more coverage, if you will, even though coverage isn't really what you want from a highlighter. It's got body. I love this Madison Miller Ofra highlight. I love how it shears out and how kind of glossy it becomes, but I'm not about to give up Marilyn, so I'm just gonna go ahead and keep both of these. They are the powder highlights that I feel like my heart double beats for more than anything these days. But I also really love having Samantha's highlighter. It's the Start Inspired highlighter, and I love that it has this pink in here. It also has that sheer quality, that really, really kind of like glossy quality that the Ofra highlighters have. And I feel like the pink, the cool toned presence kind of softens it a little bit. In a way, it almost makes it like more wearable than the other two that I was just swatching, and it definitely makes it blend into my skin tone in a certain way. Let's look at it next to this Elsie highlight. Oh yeah, this one has like more warmth. It's definitely different. Oh yeah, and much more pigment. Gosh, I didn't realize how richly like colorful that Elsie highlight was. Huh. This is like almost bronzy on me. I've never really thought of it that way. And this is hard because they are really different, and they are really different from the other two that I was just looking at, but I just don't wear powder highlights enough to like feel like it makes sense to keep them. And like these are the two that like really made me feel like, oh yes, I really want to keep more. You know what I mean? They're the ones that made me feel the feelings. I don't think that I want to declutter the Start Inspired highlighter, and it does have that like paleness, that really lovely sort of, you know, it's like illuminating my skin in this particular way. This looks very beautiful in the swatch, but I think it's probably the one that's like the least wearable for me and the one that makes the least sense to keep. So I'm gonna go ahead and set this one aside and sort of like plan to declutter it, and then I'll check back in at the end and see how I feel. I don't want to let go of the Fenty one. It's definitely unique, and you know, I'm making progress on it. I use it quite a bit. Very wet look. I might be able to let go of one of these two, but looking at them here, it's making me remember that I did declutter my highlighters pretty recently, and that's why the collection is so edited. You know, I struggle with these because I love playing with this one. This is the one from Fluide. It's really creamy, and the glossy look is just off the charts. Like it's unbeatable the way that it shines. And so I love playing with it during makeup playtime. I love doing like editorial things with it, but it doesn't dry down, and it does stay really greasy, like balmy, almost like a Vaseline, and it migrates all over the place. And you can't really wear it, or at least I can't really wear it like out for the day. Like by the end of the day, it's sort of like all rubbed off and gone. So I don't know how practical it is to keep it. It's like I keep it because I love it in this like impractical way. And then this one, the Jelly one, it's also really brilliant, really shiny, and it does dry down, and it's a bit more practical. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna keep this one from Holika because it gives the look, but it also has that practical quality. Like I can wear it for a video, I can wear it for the day, And this one from Fluid, even though it's hard to let go of something that swatches so incredibly beautifully, I'm going to declutter it. Okay, so here's what we're looking at. Here's what has happened. This is the edited collection, and you know, it's not that much less stuff. I've only let go of these products right here. So my collection is smaller by 10. And it doesn't look like much. It's not like a huge percentage, but to me, it does actually make kind of a big difference. Like opening this drawer when I'm about to put makeup on my cheeks, looking at it, these are all of the options for color, shine, liquid and powder, and bronzing and sculpting, absolutely everything. Looking at it, it does look more approachable. I feel like I can see everything a little bit better and understand what I'm dealing with more than it did when these 10 things were in there as well. So yeah, it wasn't the most vicious declutter in my life. It's not like 50% gone or anything like that, but I did achieve my aims. I feel like this can breathe, this collection can breathe. It's more livable for me. And I do feel like I kind of took myself to task with some of these things that I've been reluctant to get rid of, because there's part of me that just feels like I should want to keep it. And, you know, I'm looking in this declutter at the reality of the use of the thing and my actual feelings around the thing. So that is it. I'm going to proceed to live with this as my cheek collection, work with these products, and, you know, I'll check back in a couple months and see if there's anything that I haven't touched at all or that I don't still feel like it sparks joy for me. And then maybe I can let go of a couple more things. But for the time being, this feels like a good size to me, and I'm excited to continue using these products, and I'm excited to find new homes for these ones. Shall we look at the cheek products again? I actually did a deep declutter of them recently, so I don't think I'm going to do a lot, but I might be able to do a little. And actually, starting with rose milk, I'm going to give rose milk away. I kept all 3 of these in my initial cheek declutter, and what I suspected might come to pass did indeed come to pass, which is that I only ever want to use these 2. So I don't need to keep this one. Oh, and you know what else I've been thinking about? I think I'm going to give away the River Bronzer. It's so beautiful, but I have kept a number of powder cheek products, and I kept them all because I've loved them with the passion of 1,000 burning suns. When I was doing that declutter, I opened them all up and they really made me feel warm and fuzzy inside. And so in that moment, I just passionately kept them all. And then since then, in practice, I haven't really used them as much as I thought I would, because I thought that I had like a renewed passion in that moment. This is just a roundabout way of saying that I think I can cull a little bit the powder cheeks that I was afraid to cull in that declutter video. And I think that of my bronzers, this is the one that is the least ideal for my skin tone because it's the least close to being a blush. The bronzers that I tend to use a lot are the ones that kind of look like blushes, like the Kevin Aquan. Yeah, like the Kevin Aquan bronzer is almost indistinguishable in the pan from these Lancome blushes, especially Miel Glacé. So I love this. Whenever I want like a real bronzy bronze, I go for this. It's got that real red undertone. And this is in beautiful condition. And I know that this is a really highly coveted product. So I'm going to give this to someone. Oh, and I think that yes, I've been so excited to show this to you. Look, y'all, look what I did. I finally panned the Holika Holika New Drop Lumi Cheek in Bronzed Honey. Anything else? This is in the wrong place. I feel like after that declutter there was one more thing I thought of. I'm going to also give away this ZC liquid blush. When I was watching them all out in that video, I was like, it's so pretty and I love liquid blush so much. And then literally a day later, I was like, I should have just decluttered that ZC blush. It's just when I have these beauties and I have still some Glossier Cloud Paint and Dusk to get through and these beautiful cream cheeks, you know what I mean? I think that I can part with this. This is in the wrong place too. But But that's it. Those are all of the things that I wanted to circle back to in this cheek category. So these are all of my highlighters, blushes, and bronzers, and they're all liquids and creams and powders all together. This is everything. Let's look at blush. It actually hasn't been that long since I assessed my whole blush collection. And I think that I decided not to declutter any of them at the end of the year last year when I was going through them. The goal here is just to see if there's anything in this box that I've been overlooking. I've been overlooking the fact that it's too old, that I really never reached for it, that keeping it is kind of like a wishful thinking situation. I'm just going to see if there are any little ones outstanding that have fallen through the cracks and that can go today. So this is actually blush and highlighter and bronzer. These are all of my face cheek products. It's just everything in that category. It's sort of all one to me. Like when I'm about to put cheek makeup on, it's like, do I want it to be shiny or do I want it to be more satin? Do I want it to be bronzy or do I want it to be more blushy? Do I want it to be a really strong contour or just a soft look? And then I use a combination of creams and powders and blushes and highlighters and bronzers. Just I use a combination to get the cheek look that I want. So I kind of consider all cheek makeup to be just in one category. Is there anything here that's really old? I guess that the Glossier Cloud Paint, it's very old. This is Glossier Cloud Paint in Dusk. I have had it for a really long time. I bought this on the launch. When was that? 2016? I think that it was 2016. So this is 4 years old, maybe 4.5 years old. I actually think that I haven't stopped using it. I mean, it's almost gone, right? There's only this little bit left in the top part. I haven't stopped using it. I remember most recently I put it on my eyes when I was filming my putting all of my blush on my face video. I haven't stopped enjoying it and using it, but I have not really prioritized it in a long time. And I do have a lot of other blushes that are really exciting to me that I'm wearing a lot. I could see myself replacing it at some point if I get rid of it. The question is does it make sense to oust it from my collection now simply because it's so old? I think it kind of does, and here's why. If I keep this, what I will do is this. I will force myself to use it a handful of more times, trying to pan it completely because I'll be like, I'm so close. I just want to use the last several applications before I get rid of it. And in the time it takes me to do that, which will be spread out over months because I enjoy all of my blushes and I rotate among them. In the time it takes me to do that, it'll get even older. And it'll get to the point where I'm kind of really pushing it in terms of how old it is and stressing myself out to try to use it up. It's like that phase of its life has kind of already begun. And with such a lovely collection, why even do that? You know what I mean? Why even make myself do that? I think I'm going to call it on this very old tube of Glossier Cloud Paint in Dusk. One of the oldest things in my makeup collection, if not the oldest. I'm just going to say it's done. It's lived its good long life with me. And it'll be interesting to see if I feel compelled to replace it, and if so, how soon. What's this doing here? This is not a blush. But this, I think, okay, this is the Holika Holika Jelly highlighter. This is a thing that has made it through several, gosh, I've kind of used a lot of it too. I've used half of it. This has made it through a lot of declutters when I've considered decluttering it because I haven't been using it much, because I swatch it and then I'm like, oh, but it's so pretty. And I also appreciate that it sets down. It does look very glossy, but up close it looks a little bit glittery. I have been gravitating towards creamier cheeks that blend more easily. Actually something that's not even out here are the Salt New York creams, which I'm definitely keeping, but maybe I should bring them out just to kind of compare. So there's Holika Holika. There's Salt New York. And the Salt New York product has buffed out to kind of like a dry down. It's kind of buffed out and then immediately sort of set onto my skin. The Holika Holika one, it's a jelly that then does completely set down. It starts drying, and if you're not careful with it, it can start pilling. It doesn't mix that well with other things. And I think that is why I haven't reached for it as much. I feel like with something like this in my collection, which does give that wet look shine, it's a little icier, but it blends beautifully with other products. And also with the e.l.f. lip and cheek palette, which, you know, is just my like perennial favorite, my most used of this kind of thing. And with something like the Charlotte Tilbury Beauty Spotlight Wand, which serves a really similar purpose to the Holika Holika one, except that, you know, it's not as glittery, it's finer, but it does completely set down and it blends better with other things. Do I really want to keep this? That's the question. I think no. I think same as Dusk. Like I might end up using it a couple more times in an effort to use it more. But as I do that, it's like getting into the realm where I'm like desperately trying to get more use out of it before it gets so old. And I think there are other things I would rather use. There are other things I would rather pan. There are other things I'd rather have that relationship with. Nothing else here is all that old. I think that the oldest thing that is here is this, which was a Christmas gift to me, I believe in 2018. When did this come out from Fenty? This is the original Diamond Bomb. Oh, look at that. Look at that glossy business. Yeah, I definitely still want to keep that. This makes me want to use it more. And yeah, this is like, it's giving a similar finish to the one from Holika Holika, but it doesn't have that thing where it starts setting and then it kind of threatens to pill. It can be a little bit harder to layer this with other products because the iciness will change the cast of the color that's underneath it, but it is possible and it is worth it. Yeah, nothing else is jumping out at me as like a prime candidate for decluttering. I'm going to open everything up just for fun. Or I don't know, will I be able to fit everything? Maybe I'll separate out the creams from the powders and do them one by one. Okay, so these are all of the powders. Yeah, I love everything that's here. I mean, my love is a little bit on a scale. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I really love the Kevyn Aucoin Neo Bronzer here. And I really love my Lancome powders because I have a type, you know what I mean? And like this is like my favorite kind of cheek to wear. They provide something similar to each other, just shades of the same exact thing. And that's my favorite thing. And so those are the ones that I love the most. But it's also good to have diversity. I like having diversity. So, I mean, I know that this isn't that diverse of a collection. It's like all the same colors pretty much. But, you know, there isn't so much of the other stuff, the stuff that I love a lot, just not quite as much as my favorite. There isn't so much of it that I feel like I need to whittle it down today. So I'm going to go ahead and just keep these guys. There is a lot more diversity of color in my collection of cream blushes. It's really interesting. I love the powders. I love the way they look when they're open. You know what I mean? Like there's something about those powder compacts that's really satisfying. This is a little bit more of a bonanza. You know what I mean? It's like a little more all over the place, but clearly I use creams more. Like I'm just a cream blush kind of bee. I love the way that they look on the cheeks. So I love this collection too. Very exciting. I didn't open the tubes. These are just, you know, the like liquids. Sorry, these are off camera. But these are both highlighters. They're both sort of like sheer champagne. And then this is the color of the tube. And this is pretty much the color of the tube. So you can see what the colors are like there. I don't see anything off the bat. Sorry, I forgot to open this one. I don't see anything that I feel inspired. Well, I haven't really ended up loving very much this Jillian Dempsey product. This was PR. But weirdly, I use it a lot because the color is so easy for me to wear. This like very, very pale peachy pink. I end up reaching for it a lot when I just want like a touch of something. But it smells really strongly of coconut oil, and I worry that it's freaking me out. I also don't like how it's sort of stiff and sticky and you have to warm it up with your finger. And I don't know, I just haven't really gotten along very well with it. But because I keep wearing it, I feel loath to declutter it. Although maybe if I do declutter it, I'll make myself wear things that I like more. Like for example, this Lila B product, which is quite similar to it. Oh no, I mixed them up. Yeah, okay, here's what we're doing, everyone. This Lila B Lip and Cheek is one of my favorite makeup formulas of all time. I love it on the lips. I love it on the cheeks. I absolutely love it. These are two cream blushes. This one, the Stila, Stila Convertible Color in Peony. And this is the Jillian Dempsey Cheek Tint. These are two cream blushes that have come to me recently in PR. Both of them I've been wearing and I like just fine. There's something about the Jillian Dempsey one, again, that I'm not enjoying very much. I think it's a little bit dry to the touch until you warm it up with your fingers. It's not as creamy as I would like. I don't like the smell. And then this one from Stila, it's fantastic. Like it's one of the best, it remains one of the best cream blushes on the market. But neither one of them is remarkable to me in formula and color the way that this Lila B one is. And I feel like they're a bit in the way, actually. They're getting a bit in the way of me using what I really love, which is the Lila B one, the e.l.f. Active Lip and Cheek, this Kir Weiss blush, which serves a really similar purpose. It's two pieces of PR that kind of hung around because I was like, they're great. Why wouldn't I keep them? But now, since they've been in my collection for a while, I found that I actually do have a reason not to keep them. And the reason is just that I like my other products way, way better. And I'd like to clear the way for me to use them exclusively. So I'm going to go ahead and pass those two on. I'm so glad that I'm doing this because I'm really happy with that decision. Another thing that I like better than both of those that serves a similar purpose is this Salt New York cream in the shade Rose. So I'm clearing the way for me to use it more as well. I think that's it for decluttering my cream blush. Some of you have been asking me if I still use the Winky Lux Rose blush, and I actually do. There's something really nice about the formula. It's got this like powdery quality, like powdery silicone-y quality that makes it really easy to apply over other makeup. So it's one of the ones that I tend to reach for when my skin's really troubled and I'm worried that if I put too creamy a cream on, it'll pick up the concealer that I use to conceal my blemishes. This applies really beautifully and has a really skin-like finish. It's in the shade Crown. And so I have been getting a lot of use out of that. I quite like it. I'm going to keep all of the rest of these for the time being. Okay, my slightly edited collection of blush. I actually did declutter, or I guess collection of cheek products. I did declutter 4 things, which is pretty good for me. It's a pretty good percentage of what's here. I'm not saying it's a large percentage of what's here. I'm saying it's pretty decent, for a little casual declutter for me. Most of what's in here is like my old collection, like all of the cheek products that I've had for a long time. The things that I've bought for myself and then kept when they've been sent to me for review. And I actually feel like in and of itself, that collection needs some curation. Like it's been time for a declutter for a little while. But I've also put some things into this box which are new to me, like things that have been given to me or sent to me in PR. And I haven't decided about them. Some of them have snuck into this box without me actually making an active decision. And I don't like that to happen. I like to be really conscientious, really aware about what I'm keeping. And some of them I just, hadn't decided about, and I put them in the box so that they'd be here for the video. So this is like a combination declutter and old school reckoning, because I'm going to be making decisions about some things that are new and some things that are old. Well, I don't know what I thought that I was doing organizationally by taking everything out of the box. I thought that it would help to have it all laid out, but it actually looks like way more out of the box than it even looked like in the box. And this is just as chaotic as the box was. What am I going to do? I think I'm just going to have to whittle away at the pile going product by product. Let's start with what's right here, front and center on top. The Westman Atelier Baby Cheeks blush in the shade Chouchette. This came into my life pretty recently. I used some of my channel's budget for self-sponsored review to buy this along with a couple of other products from Violet Grey. And I'll link that video down below so that you can watch me apply this blush and hear me talk about it. When I buy something for review with my channel budget, I don't necessarily automatically keep it. I kind of treat it like PR. So I review it just in a vacuum, essentially. And then afterwards, once I've continued to play with it, if it's worth doing that, I decide whether or not I want to keep it. It's like a separate decision. Deciding to review it, that's a separate decision from deciding to keep it. In this case, though, I'm going to keep it. This is a very practical item for me. It's just really easy to use, easy to blend out, impossible to go overboard. The color goes with almost everything that I might ever put on my face. And, it's very luxurious. So I'll continue to use it. Hopefully I'll use it up, and I'll also be able to report back about how it goes over time with a product like this. All right, I have to do the ones that have large lettering on them because the camera is focusing on the pile instead of focusing on what I'm holding up. Actually, I think that this face might be one of the culprits, and I think that this is one of the culprits too. So we'll do them quickly. This is the Take a Layer Multi-Pot from 3CE. And I don't use it very often because it's so dramatic, but I really, really love having it. This is kind of the quintessential product that I keep because it sparks joy. And I don't feel bad about that, even though I'm not, constantly using it. This is the e.l.f. Putty Blush. It's in the shade Bali. And I really love the color, and I really don't like the formula. I've tried to make it work quite a bit. It feels kind of nice and melty. Gosh, it even looks really beautiful on my finger. Maybe I haven't given it enough of a chance. No. See how it's clinging to my hairs and sticking in my pores? That's what it does on my cheeks too. I am not going to keep this. No. This is a product I've had for a while. I bought this for myself with my own money a couple of years ago. It's the Inner Glow Cream Pigment from Rituel de Fille, and it's in the shade Eros. It's very brown. If I put like a thick application of this all over my cheeks, then it looks like dirt. It's that cool toned and it's that brown. But with a light hand, especially layered with other things, it is so beautiful. It provides this kind of icy, taupey tone to my skin that makes me look like I got very cold. You know what I mean? Like my cheeks are a bit frostbitten, but in a way that isn't bright in color. I also find this very useful for toning down other blushes that are too bright in color for me. So this is a useful tool, a beloved product. I'm going to keep it. The Fenty Beauty Diamond Balm, the original one, How Many Carats? This is also something I've had for a long time, and I've used quite a lot of it. I really like it as a product. I like wearing it. And it's also very useful for me to have as someone making YouTube videos about makeup. It's an iconic product, and it's useful to be able to compare this to other things. This was also a gift from my cousin, so it has a bit of sentimental value as well. I'm going to keep it. I think this Clinique blush is one of the culprits for focus right now. It is a Clinique Cheek Pop blush in Nude Pop. I like it. oh my goodness, this might actually be on the chopping block because I wanted it for so long. This is like one of the products that I wanted and never purchased. And then actually Julia gave it to me as a gift a while ago. I mean, years ago. And the thing about it is that it's not actually as neutral as I expected it to be. I find it very peach. On me, it pulls extremely peach. So I'll reach for it over and over again. I've reached for it, as you can see. I mean, I've used quite a lot of it. And I've always reached for it because I'm like, oh, I want something incredibly neutral and light. And then I put it on my cheeks and it's like I'm wearing a peach blush. So I just didn't fall as in love with it as I always thought that I would. On top of which, it's a powder blush, and I use almost exclusively cream cheeks these days. I don't think I'm prepared at this moment, at this early moment in the video, to choose to declutter this. I'm going to put it in the maybe pile, like the chopping block pile. Here's another all-time favorite. This is the blush subteal from Lancome in the shade Miel Glacé. I don't wear powder blush, but when I do, it's almost always Miel Glacé. I couldn't love it more, and I'm definitely going to keep it. This is another powder blush that I've had for a couple of years. It's the Melt Blush Light in Sundown, and it's really pretty. I mean, it's really, really, really pretty, but I almost never use it because it's a bit dark for me and a bit gold for me, and it's a powder. So it has like 3 strikes against it. To be completely frank, I think the reason that it's lasted so long in my collection is that it was a gift from my friend Lacey, Spooky Lips and Fat Hips. It just made it particularly difficult for me to get rid of this, even though I don't use it very often. So I've kind of passed over it and declutter after declutter just because of just those feelings, you know? But I think that it's time. I think that Lacey understands and I understand. And everyone understands that not keeping this doesn't diminish my love for her. So I am going to give this away. I think part of why I don't use that Melt blush very often is that I also have this. This is the Heaven's Glow blush from M Cosmetics in the shade Faded Clementine. And they're not the same. I'll show you. They're not the same at all. It's just that Faded Clementine is a little bit friendlier to my very, very pale skin. It's a little bit less heavy duty. It's a little bit silkier of a powder and it doesn't have as much reflect in it. So often what happens is I'll be thinking of wearing this. I'll be sort of reaching for it. And then at the last minute, I will choose Faded Clementine instead. So I'm going to keep Faded Clementine. And that makes me feel even more confident that I'm okay with giving this away. These Kjaer Weis blushes might also be triggering the autofocus because they're, it's like these bold graphic shapes that are like letters. That's what does it. I just filmed a video in which I said that I thought that Joyful was starting to kind of get that like crayon-y smell that means that a cream product has gone off, but it's actually not Joyful that's giving me that smell. I just got a whiff of it in the other video and both compacts were open, but just now I smelled them really close up and Joyful smells fine. And this bronzer smells like it's gone off. So I'm definitely going to keep Joyful. I'm going to keep using it, even though both of these have always just been a little bit stiffer than I think this formula is when it's brand new. I'm going to keep using Joyful because it's probably not long for this world, but it might actually be time to retire this one. So this is how they work. The pan is magnetic and you can either get it out with a depotting tool or you can stick like a pin or a bobby pin or something through the hole in the back and pop it out. I'm going to wash out this pan and put it in the recycling. And then I will keep this around in case I decide to replace it with another blush. I did just get a new Kjaer Weis blush. It's this one right here. They sent it to me in PR, but they sent it with the new packaging, which is much less expensive at the outset when you first buy the blush. When you first buy this blush, if you buy it in the compact, I think it's like $15 or $20 more because of the packaging. And then the inserts cost less. But if you buy it in this cardboard packaging, it's just like $2 or $3 more than the cost of the blush. I like having this. I really like how lightweight it is. And I think I'm actually going to go ahead and keep Precious in this, but I'll keep this one in my drawer. I'll just keep it in storage and see if anything comes along to fill it. I'm seeing some things here that I really love that I know that I don't want to declutter. The Lila B Lip and Cheek is one of the best on the market in my opinion, and I really like both of these colors. I'm going to keep them. The e.l.f. Active Lip and Cheek Palette, which I think has been discontinued but can still be found like at Marshall's or TJ Maxx. One of my all-time favorite products, actually. I really, really love this. I'm definitely keeping it. The Armani Neo Nude Melting Color Balm in the shade 20. This was a gift from my friend Lauren, and I've used quite a lot of it already, as you can tell. Definitely keeping it. I love this. The Honest Beauty Cream Blush, I had planned to give this away. Like it got put in the giveaway box during another declutter. And then I recently pulled it out of the giveaway box to compare it to another cream blush formula, this one from Rose Inc. You can see why I thought that they might be kind of similar. And they are pretty similar. They're both a bit stiff. They're both highly pigmented. The one from Rose Inc. is just a slight bit more neutral, and so I like it better. And I don't need both of them. They're just so similar. I'm glad that I'm able to be the one to tell you that the Honest Beauty Cream Blush is basically a drugstore dupe for this newly released Rose Inc. blush, which has been met with quite a bit of fanfare, actually. I feel like it's done really well. The shade that I have is Heliotrope, and the Honest shade is Rose Pink. So it's good that I had them both on hand, but I'm going to keep the one from Rose Inc. and I am going to give away the one from Honest Beauty. Not because it's not good, but because it's so similar to one that I slightly prefer. Let's talk about this Patrick Ta blush. It's in the shade She's So LA. This is another one that I bought myself. I spent my own money. This wasn't something I bought for a review with my channel's budget. I bought it for myself with my personal beauty budget. And it was in my video about products that I regret buying a couple of months ago because I just don't use it very often. The Cream Cheek is very, very balmy. It's like sheer. It's not like Vaseline-y. I mean, that's pretty extreme. It's not like that, but it has that kind of quality. And every time I talk about this, people are like, you're supposed to apply it on top of the powder. And I know that. I mean, I've used it like every which way that you could possibly use it. But the fact remains that I bought this because I wanted a cream blush in this color. And I like Patrick Ta's aesthetic, and I was hoping that this would be a formula that I would really enjoy using. And it's just not that. So even though I like it, like I love how luxe it feels, I love the color, the concept of it, I'm trying to streamline my collection so that I can appreciate everything that I have. I think I'm going to rehome this. I think I can find someone who will enjoy messing with it. The Dior Face Palette. This is another one that I wanted for a really long time, and then it didn't end up being quite what I thought it would be. It was a gift from my friend Simbri. She knows me so well. Like, it was one of the most exciting things she could possibly have given me, and it's been so fun to have it. I feel like the gold shift in it is what surprised me. This one is a very gold highlighter, but even like this bronzer and this peachy blushier shade, all three of them have a very gold shift, and it just stands out on me. It looks extremely gold on me. However, this one, this kind of like nudie one, I really, really love. And even though I don't end up using this like, every day or even every week the way that I always imagined that I would, I love having it. I think that this might be something that I haven't actually really gotten to know yet as well as I should. I feel like it hasn't been super easy for me to use, so I've sort of overlooked it. But I have a feeling that if I try harder, I might end up falling totally in love with it. So maybe I need to start keeping this on top of my vanity and just spending more time with it. This is a stick highlighter from Nude Sticks. It's called Ice Ice Baby. And I tried this on in my recent video, trying new makeup. And that's the only time I've ever worn it. It did look really amazing. And again, I'll link that video down below so you can go and see the way that it applies if you want to know. It has a little brush on the other end. It's cute. It was extremely glowy and glossy. It was like the ultimate face gloss. I just looked like I had an editorial face gloss all over my face. And that appeals to me, but I also know that practically I won't wear it because it's so sticky. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't dry down. And so I think I'm probably not going to keep this. I think this is probably something that it was good to try for a video and good to kind of like get my take on it, but I don't need to be the one to own it and use it up. So I am going to give this away. This was also a gift from my friend Becca, just like the Nude Sticks highlighter. It's like a glossy balm in a little pot. And it's from this brand DECLUTTER that I've never tried. But I don't know if I'm ready to let this go yet. It's really lovely. It feels so lovely and silky. It, like the other highlighter, doesn't quite dry down, but I just want to give it a little more of a chance. I want to maybe mix it with some blushes. I haven't tried it on camera yet. I'm going to hang on to this. I'm going to keep testing it. So it's not staying in my permanent collection. I'm just not done testing it. Gosh, I feel like I've barely made a dent. So much left to get through. Let's try to power through. I think what I'm going to do is grab a couple in quick succession that I know that I'm keeping. So I know that I'm going to keep my Glossier Cloud Paints Puff and Dusk. I know that I'm going to keep the Kevyn Aucoin Neo highlighter in Sahara. It just continues to be one of my most used products. I've talked about this since the very beginning of my channel, and I still reach for it all the time. It's the perfect bronzer for my neck, even though that's not what it's supposed to be. It's perfect because it's got this slightly luminous, finely milled powder that looks like skin. It's not too matte, it's not too shiny, and I can kind of choose if I want a really light or a deeper bronze to my neck. Just helps me to make my neck match my face. And I'll use it on my cheeks as well. It gives a lovely, soft, diffused glow. But I mostly use this on my neck and jawline. I'm definitely going to keep my Salt New York palette. 2 of the shades are actually not in here right now because they're in the Build Your Own palette that I built moments ago for me, although for you guys, it'll probably be like a couple of days ago that video went up. This is interesting. I've been kind of angsting over whether I should keep these Rodial blush drops because they're so beautiful. I tried these on. Did I use both of them in the trying new makeup video? I don't think so. I have definitely applied both of these on camera recently, and I can't quite remember which one was in which video, but I'll find out and I'll link them down below. So again, you can click through and see if you want to. I really like the way they look, and I like the way that they apply. They're very luxurious. These were also gifts from my friend Becca. And I've kind of been having angst like, should I keep them? Should I not? And I think that because the colors are so similar to my M Cosmetics Color Drop Serum blushes, like I definitely don't need to keep both Pink Nectar and this bottle of Rodial blush drops because they function so similarly, even the finish is pretty similar of these two. And Venetian Rose isn't shiny, like these Rodial blush drops have some gloss to them. It's sort of like a highlighting or like illuminating fluid. And the M Cosmetics Color Drop Serum blushes aren't that, but the color is relatively similar enough. And I've had these two for a really long time. So I've like used them, I've kind of messed them around. I think I'm just going to keep going with them and give these ones away because they are brand new. I've tested them a little bit, but they're in perfect condition and I'm sure that I can find them a new home. Oh, these Glossier bronzers I never really decided about. They've just been kind of like rolling around in my drawer since I did that review. And these are like the deeper ones. I don't know where the lightest one is. I did really like the lightest color of this bronzer, and wherever it is, when it turns up, I will probably keep it. But gosh, I'm not sure about these. What I've been doing with these is just like grabbing them and using them randomly. But I don't feel like I really have a handle on whether they are adding value to my cheek collection or not. I think that I'm okay without them because I'm definitely going to keep this, the Persona Cosmetics Bronze Multi-Stick in Dune. I really, really like this formula and I love the way that it looks on my cheeks and I love the way that it blends with other cheek products, like with blushes and stuff. And so I feel like I'm going to reach for this instead of these anytime that I would use this kind of thing. So these can go. I'll find someone else to adopt them. All right, now I'm starting to feel like I've made a dent. I am also starting to feel like I want to be more vicious as I move through what's remaining here. So these right here are 2 of the Merit Cheek Color. They're just called Cheek Color. So this one's Terracotta and this one's Mood. Merit sent Terracotta to me as PR, and they sent Mood to my friend Simbri. They accidentally sent her 2. And so she sent the extra one to me so that I could try it. And I did try it a little bit, as you can see by the smeared surface. And it's just not a good color on me. It's too cool toned, too much like a berry or a magenta or something. So I'm going to keep Terracotta, but I am not going to keep Mood. But wait, am I actually going to keep Terracotta, or was I just saying that because I had 2? And so I was like, I'll keep one and declutter one. What I need to ask myself is, what would I do if I only had this one? Would I keep it? It just pulls so orange. I don't know, y'all. I like the formula and I like the ease of use of this, but I feel like every time I apply it, I wish that it were less orange. I'm actually not going to keep this. Viciousness in the kitchen. I'm also not going to keep these products from Minori. This is a cool brand. I'm really glad that they sent me a little bit of PR. I really like their lip gloss, but I find these very awkward. This is like their cream highlight and their cream cheek, because the containers are so deep. The sides of the containers are just so high compared to the level of the product, and it's a little bit difficult to get my finger in. They are kind of balmy, these products, so I don't end up wanting to reach for a brush to use them. I've just found myself overlooking them time and time again, even as I've been trying to test them because of the packaging. So I'm going to give them away. They're very pretty. I especially like the color of the blush. This is in the shade Scarlet. The formulas are good, but I have so much pretty makeup. I am often at this point in my life looking for a reason not to keep something. You know what else I'm not going to keep? This. I bought this with my budget for self-sponsored review. So my channel bought this so that I could make a video, and it was definitely worth it. I loved making the video. It was so interesting exploring this product, applying it. And then I decluttered one and I kept one. I was like, I'll just keep the one that I like the most, you know? But I find that I almost never reach for it. It's the Winky Lux, what are they called? Cheeky Rose blush. I find that I almost never reach for it because it has this kind of like soft focus velvety finish, which I do like. And in the video, I was like surprised by how much I loved the way that they ended up looking on my cheeks. I don't have a quarrel with it. It's just that in practice, I find it just sits there and sits there and sits there. I've just not been using it because even though I like the way that that cheek looks, I think that this is such a novelty product that when I see it in my drawer, it's almost like I can't remember what it looks like on the face. Like it's not offering itself up to me as an actual product, an actual piece of makeup. It's like its entire identity to me is the novelty, and I just can't get past that. And that's why I'm not using it. So I mean, I could try to fight that, you know, if I didn't have a lot of other makeup and I wanted to, I could try to make myself use it and remember what it's like, but I don't want to go through that. I'm just going to give it away. These are 2 more of my all-time favorite powder blushes. This is actually supposed to be a bronzer, but I use it as a blush. It reads as a really dusky neutral blush on me. It's the Kevin Aucoin Neo Bronzer in Sunrise Light. Love it. And this is my other blush subtil. It's in the shade Mocha Havana Shimmer. Absolutely love it. Okay, let's look for more reasons to not keep things. This, I might have a reason not to keep this. It just popped itself up. This is the Kaja Cheeky Stamp blush. And here's the thing, I really like the formula and I really like the color, but it smells like Herbal Essences conditioner. It smells strongly of Herbal Essences conditioner to the point where, and this almost never happens to me, I find myself choosing not to apply it to my cheeks because of the smell. And that is just like the nail in the coffin of a product in a collection like mine that's relatively robust for me and that I'm trying to keep under control so that I can shower actual love on all the things I own. If I find myself skipping over something because of its smell, I just feel like it's got to go, no matter how beautiful it is. And it is really beautiful. I'm a little bit sad about it. I mean, you know, it's not that serious. It's just a piece of makeup. But as sad as one can be about a thing like this, I would love to use it more because of the way that it applies and the way that it looks. But I'm smelling Herbal Essences conditioner all day, so it's going to be a no from me. This is actually a multi-stick. It's supposed to be like eyes, lips, and cheeks, but I only use it on my cheeks. I don't like it on my eyes, and I don't like it on my lips either, but I love it on my cheeks. I actually really love it. It's one of my all-time favorite blushes. So I'm going to keep it. This is the MAC Glow Play blush in So Natural. Becca gave this to me to test and I haven't fallen in love with it. The putty texture is so putty-like, you know what I mean? It doesn't melt, that I just don't feel obsessed with it. And I'm sure that it's neutral and very light and barely there on a lot of people, but on me, it just reads very peach. I feel like I should maybe give it more of a chance because I actually haven't worn it on my cheeks very many times. And I know that a lot of people really love this blush. So I'm going to keep it in testing. I'm going to continue to test it, but it has not made it into my permanent collection. It just got to the party and I'm still trying to decide whether or not I want us to be friends. This is a cream blush that I actually really love, the Clean Fresh Cream Blush in Flushed by CoverGirl. And this is one that I think about a lot when I open my drawer. Like I'll open the drawer and I'll look into my blush box and I'll be like, maybe I should wear that CoverGirl blush. Like it stands out. It like looms large in my collection for me. And so that's the kind of thing that I want to keep. You know what I mean? Like I want to keep stuff that I don't forget about. So I'm going to keep this. The Can Make Cream Cheek in number 16, I use all the time. This might be one of my most used. I mean, it's definitely one of my most used cream cheeks. It might be my most used because I just find the formula so easy to get along with. It's got this like really fluffy, whipped, very spreadable and easily diffused quality. And so it's like my default. I use it when I'm not sure what else to use. And it buffs out a little bit more brown than it looks in the pan, which is perfect for me. This is e.l.f.'s Basic Liquid Highlighter. I actually really like this. I used this recently in a video, the full face of e.l.f. video that I filmed recently. It's very, very glossy. It has a little bit of oil in it. So it stays a little bit, well, it doesn't stay tacky because it's not tacky at all. It's never tacky. It does stay a little bit oily, but I would so much rather have something that stays a little oily than something that stays tacky. This is like a good example of how a product like this can work for me. It's like if it has an oil base so much that there's no tackiness, then it doesn't bother me as much that it doesn't dry down. What bothers me is when it has that like really sticky quality that this product from Nude Sticks has. It's like with this on my cheeks, my hair would have stuck to it. Like anything, like a little feather floating along on the breeze would have just stuck to my face and stayed. And I think that might be the case with this as well. Although again, I haven't tested it enough to know. Swatching this e.l.f. product is making me remember that sometimes I can get this wet look. I can get this wet look without that stickiness. You can get it from a product like this. So I'm going to hang on to this for now. It's also, I find this a useful tool, and it's also nice to have around for comparisons like these. Okay, it's time to make some hard decisions because these are 3 products of which I feel very fond, but I think that there are probably really good reasons for letting go of all 3 of them. Let's start with the Beauty Light Wand, the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Beauty Light Wand. It's just almost done. Like I'm squeezing it and just air is coming out. I mean, I'm sure that there's still some product in there. Like this is what I'm talking about right here. Yeah, I think that this is done. I think that I can in good conscience say that I've used it all up. Even though I can still get product out, right? There's still product. Like I was immediately able to get a nice juicy swatch of it from the sponge tip applicator, but that's because that product has been sitting in the sponge tip applicator for a long time. Sponge tip applicators like this, I actually really like them. I like how hands-free they are, but after 2 years, which is I think how old this is, after 2 years, it starts to be like, what might be growing in there? You know what I mean? And I feel like that combined with the fact that there's literally no product left in the tube, it's like all of the product that's still here is the product that's sitting in the sponge. That makes me feel like I have gotten the use that I'm going to get out of this. And I've definitely gotten my money's worth. I mean, I essentially used it all up and I loved it. The Danessa Myricks Dew Wet Balm stays in my collection because I romanticize it. I just think it's one of the prettiest things on the market. I love this multi-dimensional pan. I just love the surface of the pan. I love the way that it swatches. I love how silky it is, how it feels. I love everything about it. Except for the way that it applies and the way that it looks. I just have a hard time getting an even application. And, I think that it's designed to be sheared out, like really a lot. You know what I mean? You're not really supposed to get it to look like this on your cheeks. You're supposed to get it. It's supposed to look like that, which maybe that's my problem. Maybe I've been fighting it. Maybe I've been trying to get something out of it that is not what it's for. Maybe I need to play with this more. I'm going to give it one more chance. This, however, I think it's time for this to go. This is the Marilyn pressed highlighter from JD Glow. It's a gorgeous highlight. I mean, it's amazing. It's just like really amazing. Ready? Are you ready for this? I can't even look at that. It's so pretty. It's so pretty. I don't use powder highlights like this anymore, like these megawatt, super creamy powders. I feel like the question is, does it make sense for me to keep like one powder highlight around just in case I ever want one? I guess if I ever want one, I can use the one from the Dior palette. That's the thing. I just don't think that it makes sense for me to keep this. This is exactly the kind of thing that I should be letting go of because it just sits there and sits there and sits there. Like I keep it for reasons that are not the reason that I should keep a thing, which is that I really love using it, like really love wearing it. So even though right now it's hard, like when I swatch it and I see how pretty it is, it's hard, but it doesn't necessarily look the way it looks on my hand, on my face, on my face, it's just a little bit more powdery than my cream cheeks, than the kinds of things that I prefer to wear these days. So I am going to let this go as well. Okay, so here on the right, we have all of the things that I am decluttering or choosing not to keep. And on the left are all of the things that I'm keeping. I'm not surprised that there are many more things in this pile that I'm keeping than there are in this pile, but I actually am kind of surprised at how many things I am decluttering or choosing not to keep. I'm going to go through and count. There are 18 things in this pile, the giveaway pile. And there are 27 things over here in the keep pile. That's like 40%, which I think is more than I expected to let go of today. But I am really glad to have a more streamlined collection. Like this is what I wanted, and I'm excited to have the clarity and space around these products that I really love. Hi, so I cannot believe I'm about to do this, but I am, and it has to be done. And I'm a little bit daunted, but I'm also a little bit excited. This is kind of the situation. What's in frame right now is just emblematic of what's been going on all over this room lately, which is just that everything's getting jumbled together, everything's getting piled up. And not only do I need to organize it and do a little bit of decluttering, but I am about to pack up everything that I want to keep and move it all the way across the country. Okay, here's some of the stuff that was in my vanity drawer. And it's starting to get to the point where I think I'm just going to have to kind of go through it, sorting it without talking over every single thought. But what I will do is to check in with you if there's anything of note. This is almost brand new. It's the Ilia Multi-Stick in Ladybird. I just don't really like the balmy formula, and I have so many great cream cheeks. I'm not going to keep it. Julia, my friend with whom I've been living for the past year and a half, she doesn't wear very much makeup, but this is the kind of thing out of everything that I could see her maybe wanting, so I think I'm going to offer it to her. This CoverGirl cream blush I have also had for a pretty long time. I really, really love it. It's like been a standout product for me. I really like it, but it's not unique to my collection anymore in terms of color. There are some of the Salt New York cream cheeks that are pretty much the same color. I even have some other cream blushes in here that are pretty much the same color, and I just don't see myself continuing to use it very much. Okay, starting to make some space. Let's deal with this stuff. I don't know why my wallet, hello, my wallet's just like sitting here in a box of makeup and stuff. These are all from Phytosurgeons, and I am planning to film a Phytosurgeons review before we leave sometime in the next couple days, so I need to set these products aside. Okay, here's something that I'm going to keep. This Kaleidos blush in this super fluorescent pink color. I just feel very passionate about it. But I am going to give away this powder Kaleidos blush. I feel like this is a really wearable color and someone else is really going to love it. I think that this is going to be a little bit of a different declutter for me in that I've gotten to the point with my work on YouTube where I'm testing makeup most of the time. So there's less time, just logistically, for me to use the makeup that's in my drawers. I love using my old makeup, but because of these logistics, because of my schedule, when I go and use my old makeup, I only use my absolute favorite stuff. So that's happening. And at the same time, I am increasingly becoming someone who appreciates simplicity, who wants fewer, nicer things, and, you know, even fewer and even nicer things with every passing year. All of these facts have converged to make me want to ruthlessly declutter my makeup collection, my existing beloved makeup, down to only the very finest few things that I'm going to be the happiest to use on those occasions when I'm using my own old makeup. So that's my overall context, and a quick reiteration of the other part of my context here. I work in the beauty industry now. My economic relationship with makeup has changed because a lot of this makeup was either sent to me for free, or it's makeup that my functioning business, the business of this YouTube channel, purchased for review. I have a more fluid relationship with makeup now because of my work, and because so much makeup comes in for review, I get overwhelmed easily, and I'm really ready to boil this down to only the absolute essential pieces and start the new year with a clean slate. Okay, it's feeling like a lot more out of the box than it felt like in the box. I'm still optimistic that I can do it all in one go, but I think I might need to kind of categorize it, organize it. Do I want to do that, or I just want to go through piece by piece? Maybe we just settle in and it's not super organized and I just go through piece by piece. All right, this was PR from Ciate London. It's the Dewy Bronze Glossy Cheek Tint. It is exactly what it sounds like, a liquid cheek tint that is actually really pretty. This entire bronze line from Ciate London was really pretty, but this does stay kind of sticky on the cheek, has a strong coconut smell. It's not really my favorite thing. It's not precious to me. I'm not going to keep it. This is a blush from a Kaleidos collection that I reviewed last year, and they sent me all of the colors, and I kept this one because it was so different from anything else in my collection. And here's the thing. I am ready to not keep things for that reason, because this really just gathers dust. It's hard to let go of something like this in the moment when it's so cool, and I reviewed it and I put this on my face and I really enjoyed the look. It was really exciting. But I need to realize that for me and my work right now, that was the purpose that this served. It was that video that I made. It's not going to continue to serve that kind of purpose in my life going forward. I'm not going to repeat that performance of putting it on and really loving the look once a week, once a month, not even once a year going forward, because when I am reaching for my beautiful makeup, this isn't the color I'm putting on my cheeks. So I'm not going to keep this either. This is a tough one. This is the Haus Labs highlighter. I love the glossy look of this on my cheeks. I reviewed this year. I reviewed a couple of things from Haus Labs. I loved the way that it looked on my cheeks. It's really, really glossy, really shiny, really pretty, a delight to apply, all of that. But as I continued wearing it over the weeks after that review, I came to dislike the gold flip. I don't like an orangey gold flip in my highlight. With my current mindset, that's enough for me to decide not to keep something. If I don't feel like it's precious to me, like it's my favorite, it's not making it through this declutter. This, however, is a really great product for me from Haus Labs. It's a cream to powder bronzer, and it might be the most successful cream to powder cheek formula for me that I've ever come across. It does feel like a hybrid product, and I love the way that that applies. I especially love it for a bronzer. It's also extremely neutral. It's genuinely neutral, maybe the most neutral bronzer I've ever come across. I think of it as my favorite bronzer that is like an actual bronzer rather than being basically a blush for me. I think I'm going to hang on to this. This is also a tough one, and let me get its friend. Okay, here we have two icons, the Lancome Blush Subtil in Mocha Havana Shimmer, which is this darker one, and the Lancome Blush Subtil in Miel Glacé. Now, these are my favorite powder blushes, pretty much, these colors and this formula. I've used them so much. So this actually isn't a case where I'm like, oh, I didn't get good use out of it, but I'm getting rid of it anyway because I work in beauty now and, there's all this makeup. No, in this case, I actually feel like I used them. They were PR. They were sent to me as PR, and they became my precious favorites, and I used them a ton. They're just old. They've gotten really pretty old. They're several years old. And it's funny, I think that sometimes I forget how long I've actually been making YouTube videos. It's coming up on 5 years now. So makeup like this that I feel like I acquired in the second year of YouTube, that used to feel to me like new makeup. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, I didn't have this before my YouTube channel. It's new. But no, they're almost 4 years old. And powder products can last a long time, but the past several times I've considered reaching for these, I've stayed my hand because I feel like they are past their prime. They're getting a little chalky. The color doesn't apply the way that it used to. It is just time for them to go. This, on the other hand, is something that is pretty much brand new to me. I just reviewed this and I love it. I'm definitely going to keep this. This is the Les Filles en Rouge face palette. I applied it on camera in that violet gray makeup video that went up just in the past couple of weeks. It's partly because it's so new, but it's also the formulas, which I really love, and the packaging, which I really love, that makes this absolutely feel like my precious. So I'm going to keep it. All right, the Rose Ink Highlighter. This is an interesting type of makeup for me. It's this. It's something that I reviewed. The channel bought it for a review, so I didn't spend my money on this. I have no horse in this race. I like it, right? I gave it a good review. I think it's a good product. It gives that really, really wet look, sort of subtly wet look, shiny cheek. I even think it looks incredibly beautiful right there on my finger. I like it. If I'd bought it with my own money, I wouldn't regret it. If I had a smaller makeup collection, I wouldn't declutter it. But it's just not my precious, right? I'm just not reaching for it. When I want to illuminate my cheeks, I'm using other things. There's nothing wrong with it, except that it just hasn't wormed its way all the way into my heart. And because I review makeup, I have a lot of products lying around that have this status, and they're all gonna go in this declutter. This is a different story though. This is something I've had for a really long time, obviously, right? This is the Fenty Diamond Bomb, the original. Look how magnificently busted this is. Look at that. This also has some sentimental value because it was a gift from my cousin, but I'm also going to try to let go of things in this declutter that I've been keeping because they were gifts. I'm really going hard. But this is really old. I mean, I think this is also 4 years old, and it's even more busted than you can tell because the back casing often pops off. This piece of makeup has served me incredibly well in so many ways, but you know, its time has come. Okay, let's look at these Persona cream cheek products. So there is some makeup mixed in here that is just stuff that I recently reviewed, right? And that I just haven't sort of dealt with yet. These fall into that category, except for Dune, the bronzer. I really love this cream bronzer. I really love the texture, the super creamy texture. I like the color, and I've kept it and used it a bunch because I just really like it. I find it really satisfying. I really like the brand. But is that enough in this declutter for me to keep it? Do I feel like it's my precious and I'm like reaching for it over and over again? These are such pretty products. And again, as cream cheeks go, I mean, the formula is incredible. The colors are beautiful. I definitely don't need to keep the two bright colors. These aren't my colors, so even though the formula is great, I'm not going to be wearing those. This is Teddy. It's the blush color that I like the best. But I think if I were to keep one of these, I would keep the bronzer because it's got that kind of icky, mucky, almost slightly olive tone to it that makes it work so well with my complexion. I'm going to put it in the keep for now, the bronzer. We'll have a final reckoning at the end. But you know what? No, look at this. These are very similar products to me. And this is the Armani Neo Nude Melting Color Balm. So they're both these like melty cream cheeks, right? And the Armani Neo Nude Melting Color Balm is a no-brainer for me. It is my precious. I absolutely love this piece of makeup. I clearly use it all the time. It's one of the things that I use the most when I'm just wearing my own makeup. So I'm gonna keep this and not this. Crazy. Speaking of cream bronzers, while we're at it, this is the one from Merit, which is a gorgeous formula, but it goes a little orange on me. So this is just something that I reviewed, haven't been using it. I really like the Merit highlighting sticks, cheek sticks. And I actually do end up reaching for these sometimes when I'm just doing my makeup. I think I can keep just one though, and I'm gonna keep the really light champagne one, the neutral one that blends well for me with other things. This palette of Ket Cream Fix products is one of my most used palettes recently, mostly for the complexion products, which, you know, aren't really what we're talking about in this video, but I really love these two cheek products as well. The highlighter and this blush in particular, I really, really love them. I'm definitely going to keep this. It's my precious. All of these CoverGirl dewy tints were mixed in because I recently reviewed them. So I had just like tossed them into the blush drawer, but I don't really like this formula. I especially don't like it as much as I like the Glossier Cloud Paint. So it can all go. Speaking of the cloud paint, I only have 2 left. I've been pretty ruthless in decluttering any of the other colors that I ever had. And oh my gosh, am I gonna keep them? You know what has happened, I think? I feel like the Phytosurgence blushes have kind of unseated the Glossier Cloud paints in my affections. So there's Phytosurgence Fervor, Simmer, and Condensate. Now I'm seeing why I feel like Puff is worth keeping, though. It has that like milky quality to it, you know? And Dusk also has that kind of bronzy, almost slightly olivey bronze quality to it. So they are really different from the colors of the Phytosurgence blushes. I tend to reach for the Phytosurgence ones more frequently these days. They do kind of feel like Puff and Dusk are my precious in that they just really hold down the fort in a certain arena of my makeup brain. And I do like to compare things to them, especially Dusk. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep them. And the Phytosurgence blushes, it's kind of a rare situation. I don't usually relish the feeling of being like a collector of every single color. I mean, this isn't every single color, but this is a lot for me to have 5 colors of a single formula. I just love the formula so much that it makes me happy to have them all. Maybe at the end, if I'm trying to squeeze it, to narrow it down, I'll weed out 1 or 2, but for now, it just feels like a no-brainer to keep them. Aha! This is the kind of thing. This is the kind of chaff we're shedding right now. Oh, the color is so pretty, but no. This is the Cheeky Posh blush, which I got for a review a long time ago, like over a year ago. It's the shade Mini Skirt. It's a Victoria Beckham beauty product, and I've just never liked the formula. Also, the packaging's like rattly, and no, I love the color, but it's not my precious. I want it to be, but it's not. I find the formula a little dry, and it's hard for me to apply it in a way that's not patchy. Here is an oldie but a goodie that can make cream cheek in shade 16. This is a great product that I got a ton of use out of, but it's either 3 or 4 years old, and it's a cream cheek product. It's gone. Okay, the Glossier bronzers. I have tried to declutter them like 5 times. They've been here on camera before, and I've been like, oh, I'm decluttering them now. And I just can't seem to do it. I just like them. I like their little things. I like the little tubes. I like the colors. But no, these ones are definitely going. Even Flare is going. It's just a little too orange, you know? I would rather use Dusk. I would rather use Glossier Dusk to bronze. It's funny with those bronzers. It's like there's some part of me that just likes having them around because it feels luscious, but I genuinely never use them. This is something I think I'd like to keep. I reviewed Ellis Foss makeup last year, and this is the one cheek product that I reviewed from there. And I don't use it as much as I would like to, but I really do like it. I think the reason I don't use it is that it's kind of innocuous, you know, it's a little inconspicuous, especially among everything else. And so it just gets skipped over. And I'm hoping that I won't have that problem in the new year with my edited collection. The Rose Ink Blush, a formula that I really love in a color that I really like. This is also a product that gets skipped over because I reach for other things, because I'm testing stuff, or because I just don't think of it, or the compact looked the same as the highlighter when they were closed and I never knew kind of which one was which. I love how pigmented it is. I gave this a really good review back when I reviewed it, and for good reason. I just like applying it. I feel like I always get exactly the look that I'm going for, just like the Rose Ink Concealer. I keep smelling it to see if it has gone bad because it's as old as the concealer was, and the concealer did eventually kind of start separating and going off. This is kind of a maybe for me. Let's see how we feel at the end. Okay, these Odin's Eye products, I thought I was going to declutter them all. And then I opened that one and I was like, I love you. I kept these even though I don't really wear powder blush and I don't really use this kind of highlighter. I just really love the embossing and the packaging. They felt so special and cool, and I just wanted to keep them. But I don't really need to keep this sort of middle of the road powder blush. I want to keep it because even though I don't always wear them, every once in a while I want something like this, that like out of this world space highlighter. But it's this one though. It's the blue one that looks really wet and super shiny. The pink one, the sort of pink gold one, I don't need that. That to me is a little bit more, or you know what it is? It's that if I want this, then it's this that I want. You know, I never want the sort of half measure of this type of thing. I always want the wild one. So this can go. I think this is gonna stay. It's my precious, okay? Okay, here we have a challenge. This is something that I bought for review. So when I say I mean I chose to spend some of the channel's budget on it. If you saw that review, then you know how it went, which is just not well, right? I just didn't love it. I felt like I put too much on and it got sort of patchy. The glossiness got kind of patchy. It wasn't as neutral as I wanted it to be, but it's just so hard for it to not be my precious because it's Gucci makeup and the compact is so cute. I want it sitting on my vanity in the new year enough to keep it even though I struggled with the formula. It still sparks joy is what I'm trying to say. I'm keeping it. This is an interesting case too. Chouchette, the Westman Atelier blush. I got this, it was part of a like reviewing really expensive makeup I've never tried video. I like the formula. It's the color. The color's a little bit not the thing for me, but this is something I use a lot. I just use it a lot. If I want, again, like a middle of the road blush, like the powder one that was here from Odin's Eye that I didn't keep, if I want something like that in a cream, I'm always reaching for this one. I think I'm gonna go ahead and keep it. I feel like this does have a place in like my personal edited collection. Oh, but you know what can go? These. I really loved this product for so long. I think it's really cool in its way. This is the M Cosmetics Color Drop Serum Blush, and it was so innovative. You know, like I think that they kind of kicked off the serum blush craze. With all this makeup, I just don't use them because of the fiddly bottles, the fiddly pumps. It's just, I'm gonna grab Chouchette and swipe it on and buff it out before I'm going to open one of these serum drops. Blushes, drop the drop onto my cheek, fuss with it, blend it, you know, they're just not getting used. Here's a blush that is getting used. And this is one of those rare cases. This is something that I bought with my own money. This wasn't for review. This wasn't with my channel's budget for review. It wasn't PR. I just was like, I want it. I see it. I want it. I twirl on my haters. And I've been using it a lot. It's Pat McGrath Flirtatious. Definitely keeping it. We're kind of getting down to it here. It's like I'm managing to get through everything in one video. Okay, these two Kjaer Weis blushes. I actually also have an empty Kjaer Weis compact that was mixed in. This is Joyful, and this is Blissful, I think, or Blissed Out or something. They look kind of the same in the compact, so I'm swatching them. There's Joyful, and there's that one, whatever it is. And you know, in swatching them, I love Joyful. I think it's a really cool, unique color. It has that yellow undertone that makes it work really well and kind of gives it, I don't know, an editorial subtlety that a lot of blushes don't have. But I think it's kind of reaching the end of its life. You see how it's swatching a little bit patchier, and it just doesn't have the same melty creaminess of this one, which is much newer. So I think it's time to pop this out. What I'll do is I'll pop out the pan and recycle it, and then I'll keep the compact just like I'm keeping this one. And if I get Kjaer Weis refills again, I'll put them in there. But this one I'm gonna keep. This is another one that I reach for a lot. It's just so creamy, so easy to apply. Y'all, I don't know what to do about these Kosas cheek products. I think that they might also be just a casualty of the size of my makeup collection because I got these, I think they were part of my Kosas full review, brand review. So I got them for review and I loved them. When I got them, I was so excited and I used them so much in like the months surrounding that review. And then I just completely stopped using them. And I've sort of kind of forgotten that I own them. And it's just because everything's so jumbled. I'm overwhelmed. There's a lot going on. But I think because I had stopped using them, I was sort of thinking maybe I don't really like them anymore. Maybe I want to declutter them. But just as soon as I opened them up and looked at their creaminess, I was like, oh no. The issue is just that I haven't been seeing them. But I see them now. I want to keep them and keep using them, especially the highlighters. I especially love these highlighters. So I'm going to hang on to these guys. I actually have a 6th Phytosurgence Skin Spark Fume that got left behind when I was talking about the other ones, but I'm going to keep it too. This is something that I weirdly love. This is an Ilia multi-use pigment. It's in the shade Waking Up. I just use it a lot. I think it's because it's got a nice neutrality, looks great on the cheeks, and it's really, really pigmented, kind of like the Rose Ink one. I can get it to do whatever I want. It's not messy. It never gets all over the place. When I'm using it on my cheeks, I can just pop a little bit on my lips to add a little bit of color. This was PR. I just really, really like it. I want to keep it. The Kevyn Aucoin Neo Bronzer, one of my favorite powder products and most used powder products of all time. It's pretty old. I'm going to keep this, but I might need to replace it. I'm going to kind of keep an eye on it, see how it's doing in terms of its pigment and formula, the smell and stuff. I might need to replace it, but for now I'm going to keep it. I really love using it and I use it a lot. Let's look at these Rituel de Fille products. One of these I bought for myself a long time ago, actually before I even had a review budget for my channel. Like I just bought this for myself. This is the Inner Glow Cream Pigment in Eros. And this they sent to me in PR. It's the Alchemist Highlight Intensifier. And I applied this in a video a while back, this year, but a while back. The Highlight Intensifier is wild. I mean, it is wild. I was gonna not keep it and now I swatched it and now I want to keep it. So here's the question. Do I keep this? Because this is the thing. If I ever want to do this and I need it to be like editorial gloss the house. This is absolutely the best thing for the job. I mean, I think that that's what it's designed for. But that's not what I'm trying to keep right now, right? In my makeup collection right now, I'm trying to narrow it down to like my everyday products that are my precious. And this, it's just like, oh, I would be really glad to have it if I was going to a festival. But I never go to a festival. It's kind of messy because it's really, really glossy. It sets a little as you spread it out, but it's just a little messy. It doesn't set completely. It's such special, cool makeup, you know? It's hard to part with it, but it just isn't my precious. Not in that way, you know? I think I'm gonna let it go. And I think I'm gonna let this one go too because it's so old. And even though I really love having this super cool toned brown as a cream blush, and I'm glad that I have had it all this time and I've gotten some use out of it, I don't use it a lot. Again, because of its age, I think I'm okay with letting it go too. The 3CE Take a Layer Multi-Pot, it has made it through so many declutters because it's so beautiful. It's so visually striking, you know what I mean? But no, I don't wear it. It's not my precious in that way. I love it. It's really cool. It's really special. But no, I'm not keeping things for shock value or that kind of aesthetic value right now. I'm not keeping novelties, you know? And you know, that's kind of what this was too. This is kind of like a novelty product to me. That language helps me be at peace. Here is something that I've kept through many declutters because I just keep saying to myself, oh, Hannah, you just haven't figured out how to use it yet. You're just doing it wrong. It's the Janessa Myricks Dew Wet Balm. A really cool product, a really pretty product. Balms that don't set just aren't for me. And I think I need to admit that I'm just not going to figure out how to make it work. Another really interesting product that I think is really special, this is the Phytosurgence Spectral Shine. This is a really, really hard pressed, almost waxy highlighter. And it's just, you buff the thinnest layer onto the skin and it's kind of like waxing your skin with shine. In my full Phytosurgence review, which you can find by searching my channel, I talk about how I didn't get it and then I finally did get it. And I do think it's a really cool product, but I don't use it. I don't use it like wild like I do some of my other products. It's not one of my go-to cheek illuminators, so I'm just gonna let that one go as well. This is what's left. The Lady Gaga Pigment, which I kept after that video because I was like, maybe I'll use it as a blush. Oh, I forgot what a beautiful formula this is. Forgot how impressed I was by the Lady Gaga makeup. Maybe I will use it as a blush. But it just looks so yellow. It's just buffing out to look kind of like a yellow beige. I'm not gonna use it. Okay, my favorite cheek thing of all time, the e.l.f. Active Lip and Cheek. This is discontinued. The formula is incredible and the colors, especially the highlight, is incredible. It's all just perfect. Here's the thing. I haven't been reaching for this lately because it's so gross. It's some years old. You can see I've had my fingers in it a million times. I haven't opened it yet, but I have an unopened one of these that a friend sent me a while ago. That makes it easier for me to let this go. I don't want the unopened one to just sit there getting older and getting older. You know what I mean? I'd rather let go of this gross one, open the one that I have that's unopened, use it until it gets this gross, and then just let it all go. Okay, this is a tough one because it too has sentimental value. My friend Simbri gave it to me. She's such a thoughtful gift giver, and I really love one of the 4 highlighters that's in here. It's this one. The other ones, it's all just too gold for me. That's the thing that's going on. It's all just too gold. I love the way that this looks though. The fact that it says Dior, the shape of it. I don't know, y'all. It's an impractical keep for me because I have decluttered other highlighters because of being gold. But the thing is, this one has some other stuff going for it. One is that Simber gave it to me. 2 is that I really love the Dior packaging and I will enjoy continuing to have it in my makeup drawer, even though it's a bit gold for me. I'm gonna hang on to it for now and maybe it'll be like the next declutter that it doesn't make it through. But for now, absurdly enough, it feels like my precious, even though I don't use it all that often because it's so gold. Okay, and lastly, the Make Beauty bronzer, which I love because of the packaging. And in the review, which was pretty recent, I found that even though it seems like it would go orange, it ends up looking kind of rosy on me in a special way. I'm gonna keep it. Oh my goodness, let's assess the situation. Okay, this doesn't fit. These are the keeps. These are the ones I decided to keep. I think I can do better. I think I'm gonna go through and weed some of them out and make this collection even smaller. This doesn't really fit on the screen, so I'm gonna put it to the side, but I'm definitely keeping this. All right, let's go. The Intensified Edit. I'm gonna start with the Phytosurgence blushes. I don't need them all, y'all. I don't need them all. I'm telling myself this as much as I'm telling you. Because here's the thing. They all look the same in the drawer. And what happens is when I want one, and I always just want condensate, I like look through them all trying to find the one that I want. And sometimes I end up using the others because I can't find condensate in time. So I need fewer of them. Fume, I definitely want to keep because it was like the most neutral, desaturated rosy one before condensate came along. It's a banger. And I actually really love Simmer, the bright pink. I love the way that it makes my cheeks end up looking. But I also really love Fervor, even though it's not really my thing blush-wise. I always get a kick out of using it because it's got that really rich quality. And am I really willing to part with these ones? No. Oh, I can't do it. I think what I need to do is just store them upside down so that I know what the colors are. I think that's the solution. Okay, let's categorize these to give me some perspective. Okay, here we have my powder blushes. And this is technically a bronzer, but to me, it's a blush. It works as a blush. I think this is totally reasonable, the 3 powder blushes. Here we have my bronzer, my cream to powder bronzers. I think that is also totally reasonable. And here I have 2 powder highlighters. That also feels really reasonable. And then here we have cream blushes. Clearly, this is my category. And I feel like if I can whittle, it's gonna be in this category. And here's the thing. I don't like this bright peach cheek on me. So I'm gonna let go of Velvet Melon, this Kosas compact, and just keep Tropic Equinox. Oh, this is a highlighter. So I'm putting it over here with the highlights, but it's my only highlighter that's not like a liquid sort of skincare product. I have the Auric Glow Lust and the Lisa Eldridge highlighter. I kind of think of those as complexion products. This is the only one that's like part of the cheek product drawer that gets mixed in with blushes on application. All right, I'm not seeing anything. Nothing's jumping out at me as like a really good candidate for being whittled out of this collection. But this still feels like so much to me. This isn't like the edit that I was imagining I would end up with. Even though this is like a big multi-product category, I was imagining ending up with even fewer products in this group. Let's see if any of these are just truly dupes, like color dupes. Okay, Westman Atelier Chouchette, the Rose Ink blush, which is in, I think, the shade Heliotrope. Yeah. And Kier's Weiss Blossoming. They're not exactly the same, but they are all kind of barking up the same tree, if you know what I mean. Glossier Dusk is looking pretty similar to the Kosas blush, but not exactly the same. The Kosas one has a bit of a sort of like an apricot or peach flush to it. None of the others are jumping out immediately as being like wildly similar. And you know, when it comes to this kind of thing, I'm thinking of trying to decide between Westman Atelier, Kier's Weiss, and the Rose Ink, which are like these 3 luxury blushes that I really am interested in continuing to use more now that I've whittled down my collection. When it comes to this kind of thing, it's like the fact that they're really similar colors doesn't matter as much to me. The question that remains is like, is it my precious? Am I excited to use it? Am I happy that it's there? Am I going to be pleased when I see it? Am I going to want to reach for it? Is it going to give me pleasure to use it? And I think the answer is yes for all 3 of these. But I'm going to give it one last look and ask myself if the answer is yes for everything that's here. All right, y'all, ruthlessness. Here's what's happening. Here's what's happening. Here's what's happening. Here's what's happening. I'm making some vicious last minute cuts. The Merit thing, because when I started remembering that I have those liquid highlighters like the Lisa Eldridge one and the Auric one, started thinking about how much I love to use them. I realized that I just prefer them over this format. Kevyn Aucoin Neo Bronzer. It's really old. I actually do think it doesn't perform like it used to, and I'm just hanging on to it because I'm used to loving it. You know what I mean? But no, it can go, especially with the Pat McGrath here and the Gucci, it can go. Glossy Cloud Paints. I'm just keeping them because they're classics, keeping them for old time's sake, keeping them because I never thought I would declutter them. I'm not keeping them because I use them. The Phytosurgence ones have taken their place. The Dior. It hurts, but I was just keeping it because I love how it looks and because Simbri gave it to me. I'm not using it and I feel like I have too much makeup. And the Kosas. When I swatched it, it's just so orange. I love the highlighters in both of these, but the blushes in both of them are just too bright and too peach and too orange respectively for me to really get into them. I think that's actually the reason they've fallen by the wayside. And even though I love the highlighters, there are other beautiful highlighters in my life. The Ilia, it's a great product. It's just color-wise, it's a little bit middle of the road and I'm already keeping a lot. Okay, this is a little more what I was imagining. So these are the cream cheeks. These are the powder blushes. Oh, these are also cream cheeks. These are the powder blushes, powder highlight, bronzer. This I can get behind. This is a collection I can get behind. Are you ready to see what I'm getting rid of? I guess I should count, right? Okay, there's always a chance, there's a very good chance that I counted wrong, but I counted 48 products that are on their way out and 17 that are staying. But here's the thing. I know this isn't it, right? Because I know that I have a blush or two that I'm currently testing and I might decide to keep one of those. And I also have that e.l.f. palette, that unopened e.l.f. palette that I'm going to open. You know what I'm going to do? I'm taking out the Rose Ink blush because of age, because I know that Rose Ink doesn't use the same preservatives that other brands use because it's a clean beauty brand. The concealer that I had as long as I had this went off, and the color is so similar to so many others that I am keeping. So now we're down to 16. And I think I'm going to stop here. I think that this is going to do it. Maybe once I declutter my entire collection and I'm putting everything back in the drawers, I'll go through and see if there's anything else that I can take out. But this feels like a good edit for me. This is the kind of simplified drawer of makeup with which I want to start the year. I feel like with this size of a cheek product drawer, each one of them is going to get attention from me. Nothing's just gonna sit there being forgotten about, languishing. I actually feel like when I open my blush drawer, I can consider every one. I can be like, do I want to wear this today or this 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 for every one? And, you know, I was nowhere near being able to do that before. And I think that that's what I want. So I'm feeling very excited about my future with these products now that I've whittled it down. And again, so grateful to you for spending this time with me. I hope that you are remembering to take extra good care of yourself so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.